As you may have heard, Football Manager 26 has landed and we're going to start it off with a bang. So to do this, we're going to Portugal, one of my favourite leagues to manage in Football Manager, and we're taking charge of Sporting. But of course, we don't want to make it easy for ourselves. We want to use this new in possession and out of possession tactics to the maximum, and that's what we're going to do today. So welcome to Football Manager 26. You're probably getting used to everything yourself, but we'll go through little things as we go through this save. But the main thing we're going to focus on is the tactics area. Now, like I said, we're going to do things a little bit different here. We're going to try and get ourselves a false midfield. So to do that, we're going to start off with a clean slate. And because we're doing clean slate, they've got no suggestions for us, so we've just got to freestyle it and we'll just put anything in for now. Now, as far as out of possession goes, same story. We'll sort that out later on. So now we're on to the brand new tactics screen. I'm going to focus firstly on in possession only though, so we don't get too carried away. So let's go to in possession, and the first thing I need to do is get rid of these three players because we're not going to be using a midfield. We need to create the midfield from player roles, which will be assisted by the amazing visualizer. So I know what I want to do. Whether it's going to work or not, I'm not sure, but one thing I do know is the tactic I've put together does look good in the visualizer. Check it out. So welcome to the first balmy looking tactic of FM26, and as you can see, absolutely nobody in that central midfield or defensive midfield or attacking midfield zone. So to get my players into this area, I've came up with a little bit of a plan involving the wing backs and one of the centre backs. First off, I'm going to look for a playmaking wing back. As you can see by the pitch scan here, he does move inside an awful lot, so maybe that will be the answer. I'm going to have one of those on both sides, so the theory is they'll come inside, and they're going to be supported by my favourite friend, the artist formerly known as Libero, the advanced centre-back, because he's going to move directly into that central midfield DM kind of zone. So at this point, I think it's looking all right. I've got my famous double false nines as well, so they're going to drop back into this sort of area, giving me like fake attacking midfielders. My playmaking wing-backs will pop in there to be my fake central midfielders, and my advanced centre-back will be my fake defensive midfielder. So now I've put that together. The big question is, does the visualizer back me up? So let's take a little look. In the build-up phase, it doesn't look too pretty as the three centre-backs are exactly where they should be, with the two wing-backs supported by the two wingers. But it all changes when we go into the progression phase. Now you see it. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Two centre-backs stay where they are, advanced centre-back jumps into like a DM, and my playmaking wing-backs turn into my central midfielders. As we get into the final third, this is where it gets even more funky. Check that out. It's given us basically a front five. Now it looks pretty there, but the bigger question is, will it actually work? So that's what I've got planned for in possession. Now out of possession, this is where I will use some sort of midfielders, because otherwise it'll just be carnage, and I do like to make these funky tactics work. So out of possession, first off I'm going to go for something like this. So my flat five will drop back into a normal flat five. My two false nines will drop into central midfield. The wingers will stay where they are, and I'll leave one striker up front. So looking at the visualizer, when we lose the ball, high press, they are basically exactly how it looks in the formation setup. Now when we get to mid block, this is where the player roles will start to take over. You can see the striker who's a tracking centre forward will drop back, and by the time we get into our low block, I've got something of a back eight with the two wingers as the outlets. Well, there seem to be some teething problems as we were 2-0 down after only 16 minutes. Things weren't looking great. But I didn't panic, and I changed to attacking mentality to try and assist getting players forward faster, and it soon paid off. We got back into it, and after half an hour it was 2-2. And before half time we'd actually turned it around and went 3-2 up. And when I did that, things started to work. Arujo there was playing at left back, so he turned into the playmaking wing back alongside this man. And as you can see, as the game gets going, the two centre backs are back there. Diamante's playing as my advanced centre back, and I've got my front five approach. All is looking well. Now as the ball progressed even more, you can see the playmaking wing backs getting even further forward, getting into that attacking midfielder zone, meaning we've got options all over the place, and this is how he ends up scoring this winning goal from left back. Going into the next match, we kept that attacking mentality, didn't change anything else, and in this match we looked absolutely electric. Two of our key players were those playmaking wing backs. Fresneda is playing as the right playmaking wing back, and just look at him get involved here. He's basically playing as the main playmaker in the team. So goal after goal went in, and we ended up banging in 7 goals. Fair to say it was looking promising. We followed that up with a 4-2 win against Tondela, but 55 shots in the match is absolute carnage. Things were looking good and the false nines were causing absolute chaos in this team. So what was becoming clear with this tactic is we might score 100 this season, but there's a good chance we might concede 100 as well. And our first defeat of the season did come at home to Hill Vicente, which was massively disappointing. So I did start thinking with the amount of goals we were conceding that the out of possession setup probably isn't optimal. We might need to tweak it. I also had a Champions League tie coming up against Juventus, and I won't lie, that did make me really nervous. And despite a decent performance, we were exposed down the middle, conceding 4 times. So at this point, although really happy with the in-possession stuff with the players linking up really well, I thought I needed to take a look at the out-of-possession stuff because we're conceding too many goals. And what I came up with seemed to help because we went on a really good run and hardly conceded any goals. And the change I made was kind of subtle. I dropped my 2 false nines back to central midfield positions, and the advanced centre-back, instead of asking him to drop right back to centre-back, I'm going to get him to hold his position where he usually finds himself on the ball, so he turns into a defensive midfielder. So now we attack with our no midfield formation, but we drop back into a 4-1-4-1. So it's early days in Football Manager 26, but this is the bit I love because you can make something that looks stupid on paper actually work quite well. Now the player roles are massive in this, both in and out of possession. Now the out of possession roles, so these are just as key as the in possession roles because they kind of work with the in possession roles. So if you look at the 2 wide midfielders, I've got them as tracking wide midfielders, meaning they're going to come back and help your fullback. That's a pretty good idea when you think about it because when I'm in possession, my fullbacks aren't there. They're somewhere in the middle. So if we lose the ball, it's a good idea to have my 2 wingers, dropping back as wingbacks just to help them out. It's a similar story in central midfield where I've now got 2 centre midfielders in out of possession because in possession, I've got 2 false nines. So when they're dropping back into this sort of area anywhere, when we lose the ball, they can just drop a little bit further and help out the defence. But nothing sums this logic up better than the advanced centre-back who spends all of his time in this position anyway, so when we lose the ball, he doesn't need to run back and panic to get to centre-back, he's actually already there. And the first match I used it was this one, where we created an astonishing amount of chances. In fact, the third goal was scored by the left-sided playmaking wing-back, just showing how far up the pitch they do get. And when it came to defending, the new look out of possession setup seemed to be working quite well. We had our flat back 4 with the central defender now camping out as defensive midfield, and the 2 false 9 had dropped back into central midfield. So far so good. It's very different from the in possession stuff, but it just shows you what you can do with the in possession and out of possession. If I flip it to 2D, you can see that even more. You can see I've got a back 4. Number 6 is a centre back, but out of possession he turns into a defensive midfielder. And 17 and 8. They're my 2 false 9s who now turn into central midfielders. So far so good, it's risky, but it seems to be working. So at this point I'm really happy with the in possession and the out of possession. Now on the face of things, no midfield sounds stupid, but we can make it work, and then I wanted to take it a step further. So the reason I chose Sporting is because I'm quite familiar with the squad and I like it, and it's got some good talent, and I knew it had some good centre backs, and the wing backs are pretty decent as well as playmakers, but we've got great midfielders such as Morten Hjulmand, and I decided to make him even better. I mean, look at his attributes. He's an absolutely fantastic player, and at the minute he can do a few different roles and he can kind of play on the wing back positions, so I decided to retrain him to be my new playmaking left wing back. I've done the same with Japanese midfielder Morita. He can already kind of play right back, so I've decided to double down with him as well and retrain him to be a new playmaking right back. And if you think about that, that kind of makes sense because the 2 playmaking wing backs, when we've got the ball in the progression and final third spaces, they turn into midfielders, so it makes sense to have midfielders playing there. I did consider this for the centre-back position, but I've got some really talented centre-backs on the ball. Zeno Di Bast, for example, can easily play in central midfield anyway, so he's perfect. He's been rotating that role with Diomande. They're my 2 favourite advanced centre-backs. With all these changes in mind, the team was starting to cook in the league, dominating possession and creating just bucketfuls of chances. And to my surprise, we were keeping pace with Jose Mourinho's Benfica. After 10 matches, we'd only lost the 1 match and we smashed in 30 goals. So we're on a really good run, but there could be trouble on the horizon because we're about to play Real Madrid in the Champions League. A scary prospect indeed. Now if I look at them using the opposition report and formation analysis, it looks like they're going to be playing a 4-2-3-1 and they drop into a 4-4-2. A lot of teams seem to do that. So our toughest match yet, and it was good to see at the start of the match Real Madrid struggling to break us down as we drop back into our out of possession setup. We actually stole the ball off them through right back Fresneda. He sticks out wide for a little bit, which is uncommon for him. Usually he comes inside, but he finds the winger, who then finds bombing upfield, wait for it, our other fullback. So that was a dream start, but how about this from the kickoff in the second half? You can see us getting into our shape straight away. The two fullbacks move into central midfield, as does the centre back. The false nine moves into that wide midfield role, which means the winger can come inside him, just confusing the hell out of the opposition. And the two fullbacks combine via the centre back to give us our second. That's a dream goal. So what we've got here is the centre back finding the left back, who then finds the right back to give us the second goal. And just after the hour mark, I was in dreamland as we went 3-0 up against Real Madrid. Now they got two back and a late onslaught, but we got our biggest win yet. But so far, what this save has taught me is that the in possession starting point might look stupid, but if you get the right player roles, it can create something beautiful. So confidence was absolutely oozing through the team. Check out this assist in this game against Madeira. Did you catch it? Keep your eyes on those boys in the box. As it comes to him, purely ridiculous assist. That was part of a 6-0 stomping victory, and into our best league performance yet, Benfica. Let me tell you this, Trincao is an insane player, get him bought, but the whole team are firing. Some of the most enjoyable football I've seen, and we battered our big rivals 3-0. I mean, this is silly now. I'm actually thinking we could potentially win the league with no midfield after beating Benfica, because at the halfway point of the season, we are now top of the league after that victory over Benfica. We've only lost the one match. Chemistry is building between all areas of the pitch. It's great to see. Some cracking players I've never came across, such as Giovanni Cuenda, who is on loan from Chelsea, the youth player from Sporting. Now, I just mentioned Trincao. He's absolutely fantastic. He's got great attributes, but check out his season stats so far. 12 goals in 15 matches in the league with 8 assists. He's absolutely blasting most of the league with his metrics. Insanely good. Problem is, everybody wants him. But if you look through the team statistics, I'm getting goals and assists from pretty much everywhere, including 7 goals from left back. And then it happened. We claimed our first trophy playing no midfield in the cup final against Braga. Trincao was again prominent in this one. And the final goal came from new left back, former midfielder Humand, as we take down the Taça de Liga, beating Braga 4-1. And I am fully aware that I am butchering Morton's name. However, there was a blow when it came to transfers because Trincao, who I absolutely adore, well, Man City swooped, taking him away from us for 52 million. This meant I needed to find a replacement and I spent 10 million on Kaito Nakamura. So I brought him in for French football and he started pretty well. He's not had the impact of Trincao, but he looks a decent little player. And losing Trincao did affect us a little bit. We got a good Champions League draw against Atletico 1-1, but then we lost our first league match in a while at home to Porto. But my friends, we followed that up with another historic Champions League performance, this time away at Bayern Munich. We actually went 2-0 up pretty early on, 26 minutes had gone and I was in dreamland. But this is Bayern Munich after all, and they're a pretty slick team, and Kompany's team got back into it through Harry Kane. But early in the second half, we went back in front, 3-1 up. But the onslaught returned, and on 75 minutes, it was 3-3. Harry Kane is a pest. But, you guessed it, we went back up the other end thanks to the playmaking wing-backs and went 4-3 up before Bayern broke my heart in the 93rd minute, scratching a 4-4 draw. Epic. So close to an iconic victory. So that brought a close to the league phase and we did a pretty good account of ourselves, finishing in 19th and qualifying, only losing the 2 matches. And this was the first real time we got exposed. In the Champions League knockouts, Marseille beat us 3-0 at home, and despite a good fight in the second leg, they scored another 4 against us. The match ended 4-3 and we got out of the Champions League. Interestingly, in those 2 matches they played 4-2-4, the only team that's played that against us, and that was a massive Achilles heel. As for the league campaign, we continue to go head to head with Jose's Benfica. So we've got a game in hand, there's 4 points difference. It's uber tight, I can't believe we've got this close, but look at the goals for column. We've scored 99 times in 31 matches. But interestingly, our last 2 games of the season is Benfica and Porto, both away from home. I can say this, Jose definitely hates my no midfield system because this is the second match we've played against them where we were the better team. We actually went 2-0 up after only 10 minutes, but to be fair, they did respond. Look at that assist from Luca Bacchio. And after an hour, they actually went in front 3-2. Later on, we did get an equaliser thanks to Nakamura playing as that false 9, skinning the opposition, laying on an assist. But I didn't know if 3-3 was going to be good enough to claim this title. But the way the fixtures worked out, we actually played our last game before Benfica played theirs. We got a 0-0 draw at Porto, which meant we've gone top of the table because our goal difference is so superior and we've got the better head-to-head. I just need Benfica to lose. Only problem is Benfica's last match is against 16th place Casapaya, and they won 4-0. So despite only losing 2 matches, scoring 106 goals, we couldn't quite pull off an unlikely title victory playing no midfield. Look, I went into FM26, the first proper save, not knowing what to expect, going with no midfield, so to get 100 goals only losing 2 times, granted with a good team, I'm pretty happy with that. So what it has shown me, there's going to be bigger scope to do all sorts of crazy stuff on the tactics screen, and that's what we love to hear. But in honesty, when you look at it a bit deeper and you use that visualizer, you do find out that it does actually make sense. You've just got to think things through and try things out and see what they look like on this screen. And that goes for both in possession and out of possession as well. You've just got to make it make sense. And don't worry, we're going to be doing a ton more stuff all on the player roles, the visualizer. You're going to get sick of it by the time FM27 comes round, if it ever comes round. But there was lots to like about this system, such as the passing. There you can see us down there, fewer passes allowed against, lots of passes completed, so we dominated matches. Same goes for shooting, aggressive shooting, high quality shooting when the big outliers there. Obviously there'll be problems with a tactic such as ours, as you can see there, concede a high number of final third passes against them. But overall, super happy with the squad, absolutely loved it, and we hardly even touched the surface when it comes to transfers or anything like that. We worked with what we had. And you'll notice we were using a different squad view there, and I was also using a different style of tactic view as well, so I've got loads of different view packs coming for you soon. West Ham are having a bit of a tough time at the minute, so I'm going to try and help Nuno out in Football Manager 26. I've taken charge after hitting the sunbeds, and we're trying to turn them around with a combination of the attacking football that Hammers fans crave, but also inspired by Nuno, out of possession, I'm going to use the ill-advised 4 outlet players. Now it's ill-advised for a reason, because it probably won't work. I mean, do you remember this? You could even try, if you really wanted to, having every one of your attacking players as outlet players. Although I probably wouldn't recommend it because that would just be absolute carnage. So I'm even advising against it, but we like to try things differently on this channel, so today we're going to try it. So from day one, the club's vision, their expectations are pretty modest, finishing the mid-table in the Prem, be competitive in both cups. I think we can handle that. The question is, can my team handle the fact that we're going to have 4 outlet midfielders? Why is that such a problem? Well, when you look at the visualizer, when it's a high press, it's absolutely fine. We're in a decent 4-4-1-1 shape, but when we get into the mid block, you can see the players are still maintaining quite high up, and when we get to a low block, we're basically saying to the back 6, you do all the defending, we'll wait for the football. So this is why the in possession tactic becomes really important, because we want them to be attacking, because if we lose the ball and drop into this and just sit deep, it's going to be chaos. So in possession, when we build up, we're going to have a couple of centre backs, 2 defensive midfielders dropping in between them, and the wing backs will provide all the width. I want to let Lucas Paquetá and Ward Prowse have a bit of a free roll, and up front I've got Bowen and Fulkrug, who isn't exactly your ideal channel forward, known more as a target forward because he's a big strong striker. He's got okay acceleration and pace, he'll do the job for now, but we probably need somebody else. That potentially could be Callum Wilson, but because his legs are made of matchsticks, his pace and acceleration have dropped right off, but his off the ball is still elite. Now back to the visualizer so you can see how I think we're going to attack. When we get to the progression stage, everyone moves up, and then we're just left with this kind of box 4 doing all the defending, and when we get to the final third, same gig. So it is very aggressive. When we lose the ball, that's when it gets interesting. Now, I thought I'd try and do this without bringing any players in, especially till January, just to see how it goes, give them a chance. I do think we probably do need a better striker, one that can move around a bit, but for now, Fulkrug will have the shirt. So I was happy to get my tactic in place, and then I wanted to see what the season preview had in store. So 5 hours later, when I actually found it, I could see that it was pretty brutal, as we were expected to finish way down, and 400-1 didn't bode well. We started off with a 2-2 draw away at Sunderland, and actually we played pretty well, 2-0 up, and we gave away a 2-goal lead, very frustrating. But then we had a huge match at home to Chelsea, and this is where I got a bit excited, because we looked really good against a team that was possession heavy. We played highly on the counter-attack, we didn't have much possession, but we absolutely battered them in terms of shots. Our first game at the Olympic Stadium ends with us winning 2-0 with only 34% possession, but check out the amount of shots we had. So far so good for the mad combination. There was a bit of a theme happening because for some reason we kept drawing 2-2, first against Forest and then at home to Tottenham. Not bad results, but kind of frustrating. But there was very definitely a theme when the big teams came to West Ham, because we seemed to do really well against them, here beating Arsenal in the Cup. And again, less of the ball, but an absolute ton of shots. They did get their revenge in the league at the Emirates, but it was still a hell of a good performance against a very good team. So our aggressive in-possession tactic was doing the business, but a lot of it was coming from the out-of-possession setup as well. When Wan-Bissaka wins the ball back here, you can see the four horsemen, the guys who are all on outlet duties, are already high up the pitch ready to attack, meaning that we've got a great attacking point to start from. Wan-Bissaka's got loads of options, and this leads to a great counter-attacking goal. Against Burnley, it was even more obvious. Look at them all outside the box, outnumbering the opposition. So if we win the ball back like we have here, Lucas Paquetá on the break, already in a great position, and this led to a fantastic breakaway goal. So at this stage, I'm like, are we onto something here? Is this stupidity actually kind of working? We had a game against Manchester United coming up away from home, which was going to be tough. And as a reminder, we go into it with this setup here. Most of the time I play attacking, but we do drop to balance, and that actually brings us a lot of chances when we switch between the two. Against Manchester United, it happened again. They were attacking deep, but we left all our 4 players high up the pitch. Very risky going to a stadium like Old Trafford, but when we win the ball back, look at the position we find ourselves in. 4v3, outnumbering the opposition, and if you've got a couple of pacey players in the hole or up front, it's really going to help, like Jared Bowen. Just a couple of minutes later, we got a second, unbelievably, in the pouring rain of Manchester. United got one back from a corner, but we got another massive win, having hardly any possession. So at this point, I thought it couldn't get any better, but then we went to Manchester City and unbelievably, absolutely battered them on the break. Again, we conceded from a corner, which is a bit of a concern, but in honesty, on the ball, we're a good attacking team. So the combination of the attacking formation and the out of possession carnage was serving us really well, as we got a 3-1 win away at Man City. So that's 4 of the big teams we've beaten now using this setup. So that's brought us to the halfway point of the season, and so far so good. We haven't lost many matches at all. And remember, start of the season, we're 400 to 1 outsiders, but we're sitting in the top 4 halfway through the season. We've only lost 2 matches, which is better than the teams above us. We've scored a load of goals, we are conceding a few, but when you've got setups like this, you're gonna, and I'm well happy with how it's going so far. Now this guy's got to be the surprise of the season. Niklas Füllkrug, I'm not sure West Ham fans are his biggest fan, but he's smashed 13 goals in 18 for me. I'm playing Jared Bowen in a forward role. I don't think he wants to play there really, but he's doing decent. He's actually kind of playing second fiddle to Füllkrug, as mad as that sounds. I think I'm getting the best out of Lucas Paquetá. He's got 7 assists, 3 goals from attacking midfield, and I'm even getting good performances out of James Ward-Prowse. So I'm really happy with this. I've actually saved my tactic because I think it's going to be a bit of a banger, and in honesty, if you were to make these out of possession roles a bit more sensible, maybe only have 2 or 1 and make it a bit more solid, maybe chuck in a tracking midfielder in there, something like that. This tactic could be even better, but for the sake of this video, we're keeping the carnage. But the annoyance is, it says gegenpress style. You can't save it yourself, and I don't know if you've been through this yet on your tactics, but loading in your tactics and changing them every time gets a bit tedious. So I really want to get a style that I'm happy with and be able to save it. But at the minute, we can't do it. So hopefully that'll come when the full game is released. With everything going so well, I did try and strengthen even more. I went for Goncalo Ramos, but he chose Manchester United on loan. In January, we had our first sticky patch, only winning 1 out of the 6 matches. This is where I shifted my mentality most of the time to balanced, and also to help out the defensive side of the game, my 2 outlet wingers, I asked them to mark a position to mark the opposite fullback, just so they would track back a little bit. Now that seemed to help, and our counter-attacking play against the big teams continued to work. You can see there we've got our 4 ready to attack against mighty Manchester City when they came to West Ham. And when Kyle Walker-Peters gets the ball, he's got options, which means when we attack, we don't have to wait for players, they're already up there, and it led to another great result against the big team. Now City did get an equaliser, but you can see by the match stats how well we counter-attacked against them. It wasn't all plain sailing though, because we got absolutely destroyed by Liverpool at Anfield, but I guess that could happen to anyone. And to be fair, we responded pretty well after that, including Arsenal at West Ham. So this was a wide open game, but our attacking play against the big teams is absolutely clinical. In this sort of setup, you're going to concede goals as well as score them, but against the big teams we continue to put up good performances. Beating Arsenal here 4-2. You can see from our overall performance this season in the data hub, we are one of the better teams in the league, especially when it comes to attacking. Goal scoring wise, we're the 3rd best team in the league. We'd created the 4th most chances, had the 2nd most shots, the 2nd most shots on target, and all that with one of the lowest passes completed ratios in the league, showing our counter-attacking style. So if you're going to play 4 players basically not defending, the other 6 really need to do their job. And they were doing that in defence with the 2nd most blocks in the league, the 2nd best team in terms of winning the ball back, and limiting the amount of final third passes against us. 4th best in the league. As we searched down this unlikely top 6 finish, we lost at Newcastle, but in the last home game of the season we turned on the style against Leeds and punished them heavily. Final day 4-0 victory, including another 2 goals from Fulkrug, who finishes the season with 23 in the Premier League. He was actually 3rd top scorer, helped by James Ward-Prowse finishing top of key passes. And shout out to Lucas Paquetá finishing with 10 assists. One of the better players in the league, 13 goals, 10 assists with an average rating of 7.25. So all that combined meant we finished the season 5th place, only losing 6 matches, which was the 2nd best record in the league. So my God, am I happy with this. Remember, we made no signings, we won 17, drew 15, so probably drew too many matches, but only losing 6 in the Prem is a pretty decent effort. And 3rd top scorers in the league with 75. Goals against was 57, but when you're setting up like this where you attack aggressively in a box formation and then only defend really with a back 6, you're bound to concede a few goals. But we are very much in a learning phase of Football Manager 26, and I will say that the setup is obviously pretty solid. It's going to work quite well in this year's FM. And like I said earlier, if you just tweak these instructions here, make them a bit less carnage, this setup could probably perform even better. So with the current state of Football Manager 26, I'll be honest, I've spent most of my time on the tactics screen, which I love messing around with mad stuff. So today we're going to delve into that tactics screen, show you some of the maddest tactics you'll see yet in Football Manager 26. And you know what? Some of them even work. So we start here with the triple advanced centre-back tactic that I've got working at the minute, called 5 knuckle. Now it looks a mess, but when the ball starts progressing it does kind of work out. So we've got triple advanced centre-backs, the old liberos, and if you've used them at all so far you'll know that they move up into defensive midfield and sometimes even further and higher up the pitch. So with us using 3 of them, you're going to say, wait a minute, does that leave nobody back? Well, that's where this man comes in, the inverted fullback. His role is to basically stick his position and then move across when the position is vacated. And just in front of the 3 advanced centre-backs is the ringer, the defensive midfielder. Now the reason why he's important to make this kind of work is because he's already there. That means these 3, one of them's going to have to stay back because it's only going to allow 3 of you to be in that DM zone. So when we start to build up, we've got our normal shape of 3 centre-backs. But when we start to progress, 2 of them move up next to the DM, 1 of them will stay back. As we get to the final third, same gig. 1 of them stays back with a little bit of support from the inverted fullback. Now I told you they were going to be stupid looking, but believe it or not, when it's in the match it actually makes a bit of sense and some teams are struggling to deal with it. So here's my early form so far, blasting some teams, couple of defeats to Villarreal and an annoying one at Braga. So after that Braga defeat I changed the way we looked in out of possession. Now if you can look at this here when Celtic are attacking us, we look pretty damn solid, don't we? We've got a back 4 across there with a bit of a shield of 4 in front of them and 2 attackers up front. Now the good thing is when you win the ball back, you're going to have loads of options to go forward. And look at the liberos absolutely legging it. Sorry, advanced centre-backs. Absolutely breaking their necks to get forward and support this attack. By the time it goes into the final third, the 2 left at the back is one of the centre-backs and the full-back and my libero team are storming like the Red Arrows to assist the strikers. So we're playing better now and the key change was, in possession we look like that, but out of possession we drop into a pretty normal looking 4-4-2. So you want to have something that in theory looks a bit mad but makes sense. By dropping into something that's pretty sensible and out of possession, it helps the team look a bit more solid. Now there is some player instructions on there as well, which is going to help the situation along with the team instructions. I'll stick all those on at the end of the video. Patrons, you've got this direct download if you want to try the carnage for yourself. Now once we've settled into this and we've got the in possession, I don't even know how you describe it, 5 at the back-ish, dropping into the 4-4-2, the form went through the roof. Check this out. So following that Braga game when we changed our out of possession stuff, the form after that is pretty elite. Only a penalty defeat to Porto in the cup, and wait a minute, what's that? We did indeed get the better of Bayern Munich in the Champions League. You can see the players all bombing forward now just like the last match. There's a wing back on the right hand side going to supply the first goal. And on 65 minutes we got the second, ball down the right to the attacking midfielder. He whips it across. Easy stuff. And do you know what? It wasn't like we were lucky either. Bayern really struggled to deal with us in that one. So don't get me wrong, Sporting are a strong side domestically, but beating Bayern and going pretty well in the Champions League and also completely destroying Benfica at home. Granted, they had a man sent off, but that is pretty spectacular. So domestically, we're smashing it, and in the Champions League, we're in top 4. We've only lost one match, and it looks like we're going to cruise through. It's January now, the team are getting some good chemistry together. Sporting are a great team for this because they've got centre-backs that are very capable on the ball. So out of possession, how does it work? So let's get both up, and you can see we've got the 3 centre-backs there, and they stay in that position, but one of them, the widest one, moves into a DM spot. It doesn't really matter which one. So when we're defending, 2 of them will run back into centre-back, 1 will stick next to the DM. The 2 full-backs just drop into a normal full-back position. The attacking midfielder covers the right-hand side for us, and the left-hand side winger just drops back a bit. Nice and simple, makes sense, and it's given us some fantastic results. So much fun. I'm going to finish the season with that and see how well we can do, especially in the Champions League. Now the next one, if you are fans of all-out attack football, this is for you. So this one has already been shared with my Patreons, and I took charge of Mallorca because I wanted their underdog team. The best part about choosing Mallorca was they wanted defensively solid football, so I gave them that. This, folks, is the GTS tactic, the go to sleep tactic that I used pretty successfully in FM24, but this time it's arguably even more potent. At the back it starts off pretty normal, a couple of centre backs, a wing back with a DM holding in front of them. However, when we're in possession, we're going to have pretty much a 5-strong strike force. 2 attacking midfielders backing up 2 centre forwards with a false 9 doing whatever the hell he wants. In build up we start sedate, we move to progression, it starts to crank up a little bit, and by the time we're in the final third, all bets are off. So you can probably guess, if you're going to use a tactic like this, be prepared for goals going in at both ends. I can't lie, I got a bit excited when we scored 14 in pre-season, but let's calm down because they were a weak team. And the first home game of the season, we lost at home to Atletico Madrid in a bit of a 5-goal classic. Nothing to worry about yet, because after that, results really started to pick up and we went on a great run. Once we sorted out the out of possession stuff, we started to cook big time, including this mauling of Girona. And the most impressive win yet, beating Atletico Madrid away from home 4-1. A game in which we probably screwed over Simone big time. So in this one, Atletico just could not deal with us. You can see we've got our 2 centre-backs who are the only guys who don't really move in the system alongside the central defensive midfielder. The wing-backs supply the width. Now they're backed up, supplying the width by the wide strikers. You can see that's number 7. He's the widest striker on the left, supplying a backup to the wing-back. Inside it goes, options galore. There's 3 players there to aim at now. It doesn't come off this time, but because there's so many players in the box, look at that, that's outrageous. By the time we've got the ball back, he's got so many to aim at. And the 4th goal was pretty much the exact same. Swamping them, wide strikers going a little bit wider, filling the box for our best win yet. This isn't one of those videos though that's going to say this is the best tactic ever and you're going to smash everyone, because some big teams will, well, yep, that one hurt. And so did that one. But in my defence, I didn't change a thing when it came to mentality when I went to those big clubs, so I probably should have dropped it down. Who knows? So it's all well and good having an attacking formation like that, and look at the chemistry, by the way, in that front 5. That is beautiful. But how the hell do you set up an out of possession tactic for something like that? Well, this is what I've came up with. It drops into like a 4-3-3 strikerless. So we're going from the front 5, dropping into a 4-3-3 strikerless. And if you look at it, it does kind of make sense. If we get both of them up, you can see Torre drops back into central midfield, as does the other attacking midfielder to just sit in front of the DM. Wide striker goes wide, as does the second. And the false 9, because he's already going to be dropping back anyway, he's going to sit in that position there. I've made him an outlet attacking midfielder, so he's going to stick his position and be the link man when we start to counter-attack. So how was our league performance overall using that setup? Well, if it wasn't for this finish where we lost 4 out of our last 5 matches, we would have finished even higher. Having said that, we did shock the league and finish the best of the rest, finishing behind the giants of Real Madrid and Barcelona. Top 3 for Mallorca is a bit of a result in season 1 with no transfers. As for the goals, well, I did warn you, it scored 91, but it also conceded 68. But the defensive record could be fixed a little bit if I just calm down a bit when travelling to big teams. So I've showed you 2 tactics there, one with most of the players starting at the back and one with most of the players starting at the front. Now we're going to go to one side of the pitch. So we're going down one side here. We've got 3 players down the left hand side, a fullback, playmaking winger and an inside forward. Now this edition of Football Manager, more now than ever, this kind of doesn't matter because it's all about how they progress on the ball. So it might look silly from the start, from build up, but once you get to progression phase, everything starts to move around, and by the time we're in final third, we're pretty compact up front with width supplied by the fullbacks. Now again, domestically on this one we were smashing it. We lost to Arsenal in the Champions League, but it was pretty tight away at Arsenal. I was quite happy with that. And we also lost a tight game away at Marseille in the Champions League as well, so nothing to worry about yet. Because domestically we were punishing teams big time. Our old friends Braga got the better of us yet again, but there was goals flying in everywhere. So the match where I thought we could be onto something though was in the Champions League when we played PSG. We went behind pretty early, but we did fire back just before half time, and the free down the left hand side, there they are. The furthest upfield acts like a second striker when we've got the ball. So as soon as we've got the ball, especially on this side of the pitch, he tucks right in. So when we decide to switch the ball over because we've got an overload over there, left back's there, he hasn't made his move yet. There's the guy that's a little bit further up. To the untrained eye, he just looks like a second striker. And he ended up scoring the winner against mighty PSG. This is my left hand side free, 1, 2 and 3, and they all combine to score this third goal. And it goes to the left hand side midfielder, back to the left back, through ball to the inside forward who's playing highest of the three left side players, and he scores the winner. So with this one halfway through the season, we are top of the league, we haven't lost yet, scoring a good amount of goals and surprisingly not conceding many either. And not doing too bad in the Champions League either, just 2 defeats, 4 wins after 6 matches. So my left hand side overload's doing pretty well. So how do you construct something out of possession to make that look a bit more solid? And it's probably the most solid one I've showed you yet. When we go to out of possession, we drop into a 4-1-4-1. So it's all about making it make sense. The striker stays exactly where he is. The attacking midfielder drops back into central midfield. The playmaking winger, who will spend a lot of his time in there anyway, he drops back to work alongside in central midfield. Trincao will drop back to cover the left hand side, and everything else exactly the same. So are mad tactics the way to go? Probably not, but they are tons of fun to make. Way more exciting than making a standard 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1. And the fact you can play around with the out of position stuff this year as well just makes it make a bit more sense. Especially as we wait for the bugs to get fixed on the UI before we do any deep dives into big saves. This has been a nice little distraction. And remember, all of these tactics featured today are used in FM24. I've just reloaded them into FM26, added the out of possession stuff, and we've had some decent success. There is a video on the channel telling you how to go about that. So all these tactics and many more are available for direct download on Patreon, but I'll stick a few of the team instructions up now for the ones featured today. Over the years in Football Manager, I've had great fun attempting to copy Pep Guardiola's beautiful tactics, and we had some good success. Today, however, we flip things up a bit, because I'm going to take all of those beautiful Pep tactics and rip out my favourite positions, roles and instructions to create a Frankenstein-like mashup of his best tactics, and then run riot in Football Manager 26. Vamos! And it doesn't end there, because I'm going to take the mashup tactic, put it up against Pep Guardiola's real-life City, game for game, to see who comes out on top. So I reckon I've got about 9 or 10 matches. Is it 9 or 10, something like that they've played this season, and they haven't been great, have they? So we'll see if we can do better. So first of all, taking all Pep's tactics from the past, I'm going to take out the best bits of it and just make it right now. Let's go. Okay, so first off, I want that advanced centre-back, the John Stones role that became so famous. But before that came the playmaking inverted wing-back that João Cancelo did, so let's bring him back as well. And let's throw in that wide playmaker role that he gave Kevin De Bruyne for a bit last season. That was cool. Since we're on the right side of the pitch, give me a Mahrez-style drifting inverted winger. Speaking of wingers, give me a pacey, wide, out-and-out winger like Leroy Sané. And for central midfield, let's throw in a creative free role for David Silva or Phil Foden. And the new free role position seems absolutely perfect. Okay, I think I'm done, and I've came up with this. But the good news is, with the Premier League licence and what have you, we've got exactly the same fixture list as they do in real life. So we got all the way down to the Bournemouth game here, which is today as I'm recording, to see if we do better. Now, this is the City results that they've managed so far this season that we need to better. And it kicks off right now away at Wolves, a game in which they were pretty dominant and won 4-0. So the question is, how will the Pep Guardiola mashup fare in this one? Well, as standard, Erling got us off to a decent start. But in the pouring rain, we were a bit sloppy at the start. It might take them a little while to get used to what I've cooked up. But we soon got back on track, and just before half-time, we took the lead, Erling again. It took us till the 90th minute to get our final goal. You can see how we line up. There's only one guy staying back and everyone else is just bombing forward. But we did get that third goal, hat-trick for Erling. Annoyingly, Wolves then got a second goal, so we're a bit frail at the back, so I'm going to have a little look at the out-of-possession stuff, but you can see from the match stats, we probably should have matched Pep's 4-0. And the next match was Tottenham at home, a match where they absolutely dominated City and beat them 2-0. So I was happy with the way the team was going forward, so in out-of-possession, I made a couple of tweaks, I've ended up on this. Drops into a 4-4-2, so Foden jumps up front from his usual position of just behind the striker, and as mad as that one looks, it looks a lot more solid out of possession. Well, in this one, we started really well. I've got Donnarumma trying to do the Edison role. He's not exactly comfortable doing it, but he's doing all right. I've got Kushnerov down the right, so I've got 3 down that right-hand side, remember. So he's trying to be like Kyle Walker. There he is. He does supply a nice cross here for Erling. But this is the match where it all came together. I only leave one back, Ruben Dias. Bernardo Silva's playing my João Cancelo role, believe it or not. And there's John Stones and Rodri making the midfield, so all these lot can just do what they want. And remember, I've got 3 players down that right-hand side. Mamouche scored the second. Nah, but Tottenham couldn't deal with us here. There's just too much movement, too many players roaming around that they can't deal with, and goals were just flying in. A whopping 7-goal victory against Tottenham. That's how you do it, Pep. So at this stage, I take the lead. I've got 2 wins, Pep only got 1, and I've got a load more goals than he has. Couple of tricky ones on the horizon though. Brighton, a game in which Pep's team lost 2-1, and then we've got Man United in the Manchester derby. The Brighton game was annoying because we took the lead and looked like winning, but they did get an equaliser and it ends 1-1. But it is still better than what Pep managed. And so far, I'm really happy with the way the mad tactics looking. John Stones is loving being back as an advanced centre-back. Phil Foden's enjoying the free roll, and the ballsy move to make Bernardo Silva the playmaking wing-back seems to be paying off. Next up, it was the Manchester derby, a game in which Pep's team dominated and won 3-0. However, this one was a much tighter affair, and in fact, Bruno Fernandes put United in the lead. But I am happy with the way the mad tactic is flowing, especially down this right-hand side. So Phil Foden got us level, and then late on, set-piece goal, in it goes. We get the victory. So a solid performance, but it wasn't quite as impressive as Guardiola's 3-0 victory over United. But overall, I am pretty happy with the way the team is looking. It's one of those tactics where it looks completely ridiculous, and it still looks pretty ridiculous in the visualizer. From build-up, he's got a choice. He either picks out a centre-back, Rodri, or he goes wide, because we've got 6 in the wide positions. But it all changes when we start to progress, because the playmaking wing-back and the advanced centre-back move into central midfield. We've only got the width on the right from Kushnerov and Doku on the left. All the other lads start moving around everywhere. And by the time we get to the final third, we have options all over the pitch. It does make the out-of-possession setup that bit more important. And like I always say with the new out-of-possession stuff, just try and make it make sense. Foden, you can see him there as the free roll, jumps up to striker as a tracking centre-forward. Doku stays where he is. The playmaking winger, already spending much of his time narrow, just drops back to sit next to the defensive midfielder. The attacking right-sided player just drops back 1, and the back 4 stay as they are. But I do have Stones as a stopping centre-back because he's probably going to be a little bit more advanced anyway, so he might as well make that movement. Next up, we had the big one. Away at Arsenal, a game in which Pep's team in real life got the lead and then defended for their lives. Just before that, we beat PSG without an injured Haaland. So to the Arsenal match, and it was actually Arsenal that took the lead, unlike real life, and it was only 2 minutes. And in a complete role reversal, it was Arsenal who tried to defend that lead before we scored an equaliser in injury time. So the exact same result as real life, we just went about it the opposite way. Not bad considering we had no Erling Haaland as well. So far at this stage, real life City have 2 defeats, whereas we're doing pretty well. Burnley next, this is a game where Pep's team scored 5 against them, so a tough ask. But by half time, we were well on the way and soon we're 3-0 up. Game ends 5-1, and for the second successive match, we get exactly the same result as real life City. Then we beat Brentford 3-0, besting Pep's 1-0 victory in real life, and most of our goals came via that right-hand side combination. And I talked about them 3 men on the right-hand side, and remember, one of them is a playmaking winger, and look how central he comes. He's way in there. He just starts out there and then wanders around. And the good thing about this kind of mirrors what the visualizer said was going to happen when we get to progression stage. That's my right back. Mamouche is my inverted winger. Look how central my playmaking winger is and my playmaking wing back. In fact, we've only got Diaz at the back because advanced centre back is joining the midfield. As the play progresses, the goal does come from the right hand side. Mamouche combines with the right back, so that's inverted winger and right back. Down the line for the wide playmaker, and he crosses it in for you know who. Speaking of the playmaking winger, he's been one of the key parts of this team. Reinders has played there most of the time. He scored 2, he's got 4 assists. Brilliant average rating as well. We then had a pretty comfortable 3-0 victory over Everton. So at this point, I'm undefeated. So I'm kind of embarrassing real life Pep. But then a look at the fixture table showed that coming up was my nemesis and Pep's nemesis. It was Aston Villa. A team which absolutely haunted me in FM24. And of course, they became the first team to beat me in this run, and the FM24 curse continues into FM26. And the 10th and final match is Bournemouth. Now, as I record this is the 1st of November, so City are about to play Bournemouth today. But this is going so well, I thought I'll try it anyway. And with the team now fully buying into my way of playing, it was one of our best performances yet, and it could have been a load more goals than it ended up. A pretty comfy win to finish us off. So at the end of the mini challenge, the side-by-side comparisons aren't pretty for real life Pep. Maybe it's time he goes back to some of his mad ways and just chucks them all into the melting pot at once. So I'm quite proud that our mishmash tactic has beaten whatever the hell Pep's got going on this season pretty comfortably as well. Now if you want to give this tactic a go, it is in Patreon, but I'll show you the team instructions now. Football Manager 26 is here, and this guy is about to start his first save. I guess the big question is, where's it going to be and who's it going to be with? One thing's for sure, you'll be getting some pretty interesting combinations, and I've had a little bit of help to choose my first club. Yes, the legends at Surprise Shirts have supplied the club, and here is what it's going to be. Yes, our first club for Football Manager 26 will be Ajax Amsterdam, and the challenge? Be inspired by total football. Be a bit unorthodox, create a tactic with beautiful, fluid, Cruyff-inspired play and get Ajax back to the top of Dutch football. Not much then, that's quite a lot. Okay then, okay. No, but I'm actually quite excited about this. It's a decent team to start our FM26 journey off with. And briefly looking at the squad, it looks pretty decent. There are some standouts, such as midfielder Kenneth Taylor, forward Raul Moro, and a well-stocked in defence with Yuri Bass and Josip Sutelo. Ko Itakura, in fact the whole squad's pretty damn good. But I think it's fair to say it's not as strong as it has been in previous years. And the big question is, how will it fit into the tactic brief? I do have an idea of how I want to play it. No doubt it's going to evolve and grow arms and legs throughout the save, but at the base we're going to start off with this. So inspired by Cruyff, we're going to go for it. 3 centre-backs and then 5 strong midfielders, arguably 6 if you include the attacking midfielder, and up front, 1 man by himself. But when we get to the final third, we should have a box-like setup. So for attempt 1, you can kind of see I've took massive inspiration off that Cruyff tactic, even down to the player roles where they're going to cover the wide areas. Will it work? I'm not sure. The hard part is getting an out possession to work as well. I've got my 2 wide guys who will drop back to be wing backs. Everyone else kind of stays the same. Bit of extra pressure on the opposition centre back by moving my attacking midfield to a striker. It's very much work in progress. I'm not sure how it's going to go. So the goals for season 1. Well, long term we want to get the Eredivisie back. They haven't won the league title since 2022. And when you consider the amount of dominance they had, that seems like quite a long time, doesn't it? So we'll see how close we can push that. Last season they finished second, so we can't do any worse than that, really. Now, another goal is the Cup. They haven't won that since 2021, but the overall goal will to be a bit more competitive in Europe. Champions League, that famous team that won it in 1995. That might be unrealistic, but I want to give ourselves a better chance and a better showing in a European competition. So with the tactic ready to go, it was time to go into pre-season. And I won't lie, it was a bit up and down, but there were signs that gave me a bit of hope. So I made the decision not to make any transfers until January at the very earliest. I'm going to give this big squad a chance. And in the first game against Telstar, it looked pretty good. There was movement all over the place, which is what we wanted. All players getting involved in the build-up. This looks pretty good. first game 3-0 win was absolutely ideal. There was another 3-goal win against Go Ahead Eagles, and another against Volendam. In fact, let's make that 4 with a 3-0 win off as well. So we even took our form into the Champions League. This one against Monaco, a great start to the campaign. It wasn't all fun and games though, because this defeat against PSV Eindhoven showed a big weakness in our team. So I think I've identified most of our issues. Our defenders, when it comes down each side, are our attacking wingers, so they're having to drop back in my out of possession setup, so they don't really want to do that. So going forward, we look pretty good. It's creative, we get loads of the ball. When it comes to out of possession, these guys do drop back, but as you can see, they don't want to be there. Super comfortable where they're playing, but when they're asked to drop back into more of a defensive wing-back position, they are not enjoying themselves and we are getting exposed down those sides. Don't get me wrong, going forward it's looking good. 32 clear-cut chances before and it's coming every 68 minutes. But because we're basically only playing with 3 defenders, we are getting exposed. Having said that, some of the football is absolutely delightful and the whole team are getting involved. It's Akura there, that's who I want you to watch. He ends up getting way up the pitch and he's going to supply the assist here as everyone gets involved, which is exactly what we're trying to do with this Ajax team. There he goes down the right hand side, turn into a winger. There's passes galore, that's lovely. But what started off really promising soon tailed off because of those defensive frailties. We've just lost 4 games in a row, away to Utrecht, Excelsior, Arsenal and Groningen, and all of these games are pretty much identical, dominating the ball and the chances, but somehow losing. By the time we lost to local rivals Feyenoord, we'd slumped to 5th place in the table, having lost 6 matches out of 17. That's not ideal for what we're trying to achieve. In the Champions League, we've done okay. We've won 3 out of 6. Won 3, lost 3. But for the amount of possession we're having in the league, 60%, we're underperforming our expected goals, and that's despite taking the most shots. So we need to get more potent, especially when you look at the XG table, which shows we should be 2nd place. And then it dawned on me, we're trying to play total football, right? And one of my favourite formations and setups is using advanced centre-backs. Why aren't we using them? We've got the perfect squad to try something like that. We've got centre-backs like Itakura, who's fantastic on the ball with his technique and first touch. And he's not the only one. These boys ooze advanced centre-back. Basically all of them. Add to that the sheer amount of players who can play like an attacking midfielder or false 9. There was only one direction I wanted to take the team. You guessed it, double advanced centre-backs are coming in for the second half of this season. The tricky bit's going to be the out-of-possession setup. At the minute I'm warming to a 4-3-3 where the 2 wide strikers will just drop wide and cover that area. That might help us going in defence. I'm kicking myself that I didn't try this sooner because I've got the centre-backs that are good on the ball. I've got the forwards that can be false 9s and I even got a good prolific striker in Dolberg. He's actually been pretty good this season. If you look at Dolberg so far playing as a centre-forward, he's smashed 13 goals in 21 matches and he scored 4 in the Champions League, so he is very capable. So he can quite comfortably be that focal point with the 2 false 9s going around him. Now the false 9s in this setup, there they are, they do go wider, acting a bit like false wingers rather than false 9s. And there's loads of options to play in that position. Raul Moro here can jump in one side and you've also got the experienced Steven Berghuis who can play the other. These guys are perfect because not only can they play up front, but they can also drop into that winger position, which is where they'll find themselves. So look, we've dropped to 5th, but we're still in the Champions League and we're still in the Dutch Cup. So all is not lost. I'm not expecting us to win the Champions League this season. Of course I'm not, but we need to get our league form sorted. Otherwise I could be in a bit of trouble because 5th place is just not good enough. So with that new tactic philosophy decided, I started to look at new players for next season. Now it should be noted I don't have a great deal of money available to spend. But not to worry, because if you look at the famous Ajax youth setup, I've got some big time players that are on the way up. The only question mark about them is, are they going to be too young to jump up straight away for next season? So the first half of the season has been hectic. I've been trying to get a new tactic sorted. I've been trying to work out what players I've got, good or bad, and I've tried my best to get myself a staffing team. That's because when you start FM26 with Ajax, you will be great with no coaching team. It's madness, but now I've got it up to 13 out of 15, and my recruitment team is getting there as well. And as far as out of possession goes, I've decided to drop to a 4-4-2 variation. But now with the tactics sorted, I was ready to rescue the second half of the season. Right, I am invested. I am invested in this save. We're going to get some total football flowing with this. And remember, the inspiration for this save came from my friends at the Great Surprise Shirts. With FM26 here, this could be the perfect way for you to discover your next Football Manager save. Not to mention, Christmas is coming. What a gift. And remember, when you choose the FM edition in Surprise Shirts, you will receive a shirt from a playable club in Football Manager 26. But it doesn't end there, because you can customise your choice and avoid certain teams, leagues or even colours. Let's just get rid of those. If you know, you know. And by adding code STINGER at checkout, you're going to receive 10% off. And for even more great savings, select subscribe and save for all these great perks and add in the Stinger code STINGER20 to receive a further 20% off. So once again, thank you to Surprise Shirts for supplying this epic save. It's the first one of FM26 and I'm already loving it. Not to mention the extra support they give the channel, so get yourself a Christmas present for yourself or someone else, use the code, see who you pull. Now with this new setup, there was a definite improvement in performance. A solid finish in the Champions League, winning 4 out of 8. Ultimately led to a frustrating knockout by Copenhagen in the first knockout round. Despite completely dominating, we had a bad first leg. Really bad. The good news was we have made it to the final of the Dutch Cup. The bad news? That Champions League performance and the Eredivisie. Because despite only 1 defeat since January, and the team looking a ton better in this setup, we're still down in 4th. But there is only 5 points separating those top 4 teams. And next up in the fixtures, we do have top of the table 20. And the game against the league leaders really showed what we can do in possession. That's one of the centre-backs alongside the defensive midfielder and the other centre-back, which means 5 players can then concentrate on getting forward and causing problems higher up the pitch. The 2 guys at the back, that's my 2 full-backs, leaving my goalkeeper to act as a very deep sweeper. Now as the ball gets moving, we are covered out wide by the channel midfielder and one of the false nines. Here he comes. And then we've got all the players surging towards the box, including those advanced centre-backs. Meaning we've got loads of options and our total football is starting to click. And that was a massive result and performance. But then we somehow managed to lose this away match despite having all of the ball. But brushing ourselves down, it was time for the biggest match of the season. It was the Dutch Cup final and it was against rivals PSV. "21 minutes in, we took the lead through the veteran Klaasen's beautiful finish. And we were playing some good stuff. PSV are our big rivals and they smashed us in the league, but they weren't really dealing with our new setup. As time ticked on, I set up in a defensive mentality to make sure we got through till half time. And things got a lot better for us on the hour. So after that moment of madness, we looked pretty comfortable, confusing the opposition here with short free kicks. Time to instigate a bit of time wasting, and this is pretty much the perfect tactic for a little bit of keep ball. With time running out, I went back to defensive mentality, and that was enough to get ourselves a little bit of silverware as Ajax take down the Dutch Cup. Through the momentum of that massive win, we actually had a really good end to the season and a good second half of the season overall. And with 1 game left, we had a sliver of a title opportunity. 20 was still on top of the league, but it was by 3 points. Our last game is against Heerenveen. 20? Well, they've got the tough-looking PSV Eindhoven. Can we pull this one out the bag? We took an early lead on only 8 minutes in the pouring rain. And at that point, we were just 1 point behind 20, who were still drawing with PSV. Half time, we're still 1-0 up, and 20 are still drawing at PSV, meaning we're not quite there. Into the second half, our second goal came after 50 minutes thanks to Davy Klaasen. But unfortunately for us, at the exact same time, 20 took the lead against PSV. Our match ends 4-2, and despite PSV coming back to draw the match, it's not quite enough as we finish 1 point behind and finish second. I mean, don't get me wrong, at one point it looked like being a disaster this season, and we did bring it back in the second half of the season, but still work to do to get this title back. So what I've got to do now is really assess this squad. I'm getting to know it. There is a lot of young players that are ready to burst into the squad that we can probably use next season. I don't actually think we're going to buy many players and bring them in. I'm going to work with what we've got. Now, results did improve big time when we switched to this, but I still think we need to get a bit more ruthless in goal. So I'm going to do even more tweaks, but still maintaining that fluid, roaming, do what you want football, if you like. Now, out of possession, it seems to be working. I'm not fully convinced. I'm just wondering if it's better to stay narrow when we're in out of possession as well, because sometimes when I'm watching in matches, the false nines there, they're so high up the pitch, they're not going to get back into this position here. So I think that's probably why we're conceding goals still. But I need to get more ruthless in front of goal. We are still one of the best teams in the league for attacking, but we only scored 58 times, which is about the 4th or 5th best in the league. And for a team like us, where we're dominating most matches, we need to get that goal scoring up big time. Now, there is work to do in terms of shaping the squad. Like, we've got players still at the club like Wout Weghorst. Obviously, in the way we play, he's not going to get a kick, and he's actually on his way to Saudi Arabia this season. And the big problem position taking over Ajax is in goals, because you start off with Vrislav Jaros, who's on loan from Liverpool, is your number one goalkeeper, a 24-year-old, because your backup, Remco Pasveer, who is a good goalkeeper, but he's 42. So we desperately need a new goalkeeper. So I'll have a look in the B team and the under-19s to see what sort of talent we've got coming up. You can see there's a good batch of 5 goalkeepers there, so maybe we've got one there. We can save ourselves a bit of money. I mean, if we'd started with this setup, we probably would have won the league. We just need to find ways to exploit this system a bit further and get some more goal scoring going on. Perhaps we sacrifice a false 9, just go with one of them. Maybe we tuck in an attacking midfielder in there, because in the final third it looks really good, and in progression we just need to be a bit more clinical. But honestly, I think this is the perfect first team and first save to get me into Football Manager 26, just to get used to everything, see where things are and try things out, because that's what this is going to be about this year, trying things out, especially in that tactics screen. So I didn't want to make any rash choices when it came to the squad and who I was going to keep, so I logged in one of my filters. This is Stinger Attack Data, and you can see across the top there various different data metrics that were used in Moneyball saves, and this is going to enable me to really judge who's got a future at the club. For example, I've just selected assists per 90, and out on top by a mile is Raul Moro. There he is, the 23-year-old Spaniard. In honesty, I did not start him nearly as much as I should if you look at his statistics. 13 starts, 12 appearances off the bench, 11 goals, 7 assists. And then when you look at his metrics across here, he scored 8 times at a goals per 90 of 0.4, which is fantastic for where he was playing. And look at his assists, expected assists per 90 of 0.4, but his actual assists per 90 was 0.7. And if you add that to his key passes per 90 of 3.4, his streaks ahead, he should have started every match. So now I'm going to go through all my attacking players and judge just that. And to make it a little bit easier, I go to filter in the top corner here, drop it down. I'm going to take out all the goalkeepers, all the defenders, all the defensive midfielders. And just like that, it narrows it right down. I can judge who's got a future at the club. I can also do the same for my defenders. I've slotted in the Sting Defend data filter, and I've got all these metrics across here. I'm just going to reselect the defenders, defensive midfielders and midfielders and take out the more attacking players. And this can help me twofold. First of all, it'll help me decide who's got a future at the club, but it also might help me decide why we were conceding goals this season. If I go to possession 1 per 90 minutes, for example up here, I can see the top guys are actually players who are out on loan this season. And my top ranked, Ko Itakura, is the only player who's won more than 10 possessions per 90 this season. That isn't great, so that's something I'm going to have to look at. And if I double down on that and select tackle ratio percentage, I can see that I've got no players with a really high tackle win percentage either. And in fact, I've got no real standout metrics from any of my defenders. So yeah, that's probably a bit of a problem. So next I'm wondering, do I change this tactic? It's a good tactic, it was solid, the second half improvement was great, but we did lack a bit of cutting edge. So if I check out the visualizer and how the team might progress the ball, you can see in progression, we're pretty solid looking with the box. When we get to the final third, however, it doesn't change that dramatically, meaning this front three need to fire because they don't really have support coming from deeper. So that's something I could potentially change, whether it's changing the 2 midfielders here into more attacking versions or even getting really brave and pushing them higher up. Something I'm going to look at in the pre-season. And what is interesting, of the 2 main tactics I used this season, that 4-3-3 with the 2 false 9s and the Cruyff-inspired one, the Cruyff-inspired one gave me far more chances created. So maybe I need to find a hybrid of both. When it comes to the out of possession stuff, I might have it right with this one, although it's only started a few matches because the other 2 seem to concede a lot more chances. Now the one position I definitely needed was a goalkeeper. I put some pretty basic data metrics in just to have a little look around. I do have some good young goalkeepers at the club who might be ready, but I'm going to go for 25-year-old Spaniard Gaizka Ayesa. Now it's a risk because he's playing in the lower leagues in Spain, but he's got a great clean sheet record, and as far as ball playing goalkeeper attributes go, it looks pretty good. So he will join probably the only other player I'm going to sign this season in Matthias Reis from Sporting. I sealed that deal way back in December. Decisions were made on a number of players who don't have a future at the club, and instead of bringing in players, I'm going to use players from the B team because they are that good. I don't need to spend any money. Promoted to the first team squad is Jofi Mokio, Dice Jans and goalkeeper Charlie Setford. Safe in the knowledge that when these clutch of players are sold, I can go to my B team and call some of these players up. As far as this season's tactic goes, I wanted to make a hybrid of the 2 tactics I used last season because both had their positives. So we've came up with this. We're back to the 3 at the back shape, but we've added attacking thrust. The attacking intent starts at the back with 2 advanced centre backs accompanied by a ball player, with 2 central midfielders that will go out wide as well in Fitzjim and a returning Sivert Mansverk. This will allow Kenneth Taylor to tuck in behind the front 2. I'm going to combine a false 9 with a centre forward. Out of possession, it looks a bit unorthodox, but I'm going to try this. Normally I'd drop the wide midfielder down to right back, but Morrow just does not want to do that. He's an attacking player. I'm going to keep him there and hope that Taylor and Sotelo can cover that area for him. And there's a bit of pressure because the season preview has us as the favourites for the title. So we went into the traditional season opener against league winners Twente. Us as the cup winners, well, we look pretty good in our new look formation. So this was a strong performance and I'm happy with the way the team is set up when we've got the ball. You can see Mansverk there's the playmaker, and alongside him he's got two advanced centre backs. Only one centre back stays back, everybody else goes forward. In this move, even the goalkeeper, the new Spanish goalkeeper, gets involved by leaving his goal, getting right up to near the halfway line, Edison-esque, and starting another move off. In fact, I'm going to speed this on because I think pretty much every player touches this ball as we go for goal. So we nabbed the first bit of silverware this season, beating the champions 3-1. There was further reason for optimism as we beat rivals Feyenoord in one of the early games of the season 3-1, and then an early trip to champions Twente gave the same result as the start of the season as we beat them 2-1. And the good form continued even in the Champions League as we go away to Bayern and take the lead 2-1. But the match ended 5-2. I think Bayern figured out our defensive system, so I tweaked it slightly. In fact, we've gone even more aggressive in possession by pushing the two wingers higher up the pitch. And out of possession, I took a risk by dropping a central midfielder into centre-back, which enabled me to have a wide centre-back, which should in theory help cover this gap a little better. And it seems to be the right move because combined with Raul Morrow being a tracking winger, it means we've got three players who can get across. And that seemed to have the desired effect. There was only an annoying defeat against Rotterdam. The rest of the time, we looked really good. And with only one defeat at the halfway stage, and more importantly, 2 goals a match, we seem to have solved our problems. The Champions League's been a bit up and down. There was this great victory against Napoli, but home defeats by Porto and Real Madrid mean we're struggling to qualify, but to be fair, so are some other big teams. Now I've got the in-possession and out-of-possession tactics sorted, we look at blooming good teams, especially domestically. Champions League, it's going to be a bit of a struggle with the situation we're currently in for the rest of the season. In the second half of the season, I was able to blood some of the young talent. Abdella Uzane, 18-year-old midfielder who looks really promising. It's just started to get into the team now with 7 appearances. Another player who's benefited from the change of formation is Kenneth Taylor, now a second striker. He scored 10 goals with 10 assists this season. If you compare that to last season, where he only scored once, he's had a far better time. In fact, he's averaging a couple of key passes per match. Further signs of improvement came when I looked at the defensive data of the squad, and when I checked out the possession 1 per 90, it was led by my centre backs. That's exactly what we needed. And also a good improvement in the tackle-1 ratio. I mean, last season's champions completely hit us. We beat them for the 3rd time this season and the most impressive yet. And this version of the tactic is definitely the best one we've used, as you can see the difference in clear-cut chances created. And with only 5 games to go, we are on the brink of getting Ajax back to the top of Dutch football. All was going well, apart from the board getting actually cross at me for not spending their money. I mean, how weird is that? We then locked down a win against PSV, one of our best performances of the season, and that meant a win in our next match at home would give us the title. So here we are then, the chance to get this title back at Ajax. This setup has been an absolute dream. Play some lovely football, and out of possession it may look unorthodox with absolutely nobody down the right, but it does kind of work. Let's have a little look in the visualizer so you can see what I'm talking about. So out of possession, when we lose the ball up here, get to the mid-block stage, we've got our wide centre-back and the tracking midfielder doing the job, but by the time we're in low block, he gets back, so it kind of works. He just got to work really hard, so you'll find yourself having to substitute him off quite a lot, because remember, in the team shape, he does in fact start way up there. So he's got a lot of ground to cover, and that's why we've got an extra wide centre-back in there. So a win here will get that title back to Ajax, and that'll be job done for us, and not spending a penny either. It took a little while, but we finally took the lead from the penalty spot on 28 minutes. Dolberg made no mistake. Just before half-time, the second goal went in. Bit lucky, but it was total domination. And the party started just 30 seconds into the second half. And after another solid performance, we'd done it. Ajax back on top of Dutch football, claiming the Eredivisie. I can maybe get out of this red jumper now. We actually finished off the season with 10 straight victories. This tactic is definitely the one we should have used right at the start. We finished 16 points clear, scoring well over 2 goals a match. So really happy with that, and getting the youngsters into the game as well. Uzan there is turned into a bit of a regular, and I've made me use Fitz Jim in a position he's probably not accustomed to, but he's done okay. The rest of the team have been really good. The chemistry is lovely, look at that. And who knew that out of possession nonsense like that would actually work? The only frustration on this, was our Champions League form. If I'd used that tactic in the Champions League, I do think we would have gone a bit deeper. So I thought, to hell of it, let's have another go. And the form in the league was again fantastic, with goals going in all over the place. And we take down the league for the second straight season. But yet again, the Champions League was a bust. So my challenge to you is this. Take over Ajax and progress to the latter stages of the Champions League using a variation of total football, and do better than I did, because with the training and youth setup that Ajax have, I hardly scratched the surface, and Ajax could be an absolute killer FM save. Today we rebuild a club with a big difference, because I'm going to be inspired by Championship Manager 0102, and specifically the legendary iodine tactic. Now bear with me, there is a good reason why I'm doing this, because CM 0102 had with ball, without ball setups. It was a little bit more basic, but it was definitely there. And of course that's exactly what we've got this season, and we're having a lot of fun with it. So we're going to take over a Serie A giant that is really struggling this season in real life, recreate the iodine tactic for Football Manager 26, and attempt to get the good times flowing once again. So the goals of this one are pretty simple. It's to get that iodine tactic working like a treat in Football Manager 26, 25 years after it was first created, and of course restore a bit of pride to Fiorentina and get this squad up to scratch. So like we said, in real life they're really struggling, but if you look at the squad, from start to finish it looks pretty strong with some good experienced heads in there. Striker 39-year-old Edin Dzeko, I can't believe he's still playing, but attribute wise he looks as good as ever. In goals you've got David De Gea, he's 34, so you can see where we may need to get younger players in, but at the minute they're definitely good for a season. Having said that, there are some standout young players. Pietro Camuso at centre back at only 20 is already valued at 61 to 80 million, and with recognisable players all over the squad, we do have a really good base to work from. And the whole point of this is to use the iodine tactic from Championship Manager 0102. Now 25 years ago it was a simpler time in terms of creating tactics, so I've recreated this the best I possibly can, even managing to find the old school team instructions and some of the player instructions as well. So transferring that over, this is what we have came up with. Now I've got a few different versions that I'm going to rock with, mostly to do with the team instructions, because the base setup's always going to be the same. And obviously the tricky thing about this is going to be, how the hell do we set up out of possession? At the minute I've dropped to this to try and cover all bases, but I've no doubt that's going to change as we go through this. So if we concentrate on the in possession for now, we'll start up at the back. Pretty basic stuff, like a diamond sort of shape. As we progress into the midfield area, you can see the width is supplied by the wing backs, and we've got like a box attacking midfield 4 with a holding midfielder, and by the time we get to the final third, our central striker will be supported by those attacking midfielders. As far as tactics I've made so far this season in Football Manager 26, this is the most, how would you say, normal of the tactics we've created so far. Initial thoughts on the squad, our strength is definitely central defence. I would have no problem picking any two of this bunch here. Similar story for the wing back positions. However, Dodo's a great attacking right wing back, he's going to be great. We don't have any backups though, because Tariq Lamptey, brought in from Brighton, out for 9 months, so we're probably going to need a player there. Left back looks strong with Robin Gersons, a bit of an FM legend. Let's see if he's as good this year. And it looks pretty solid in central midfield as well. No massive standouts, but pretty good solid footballers. As far as strikers go, we've got good backup in Roberto Piccoli. Moise Keane's a player that I want to get the best out of, and I'm definitely going to use Edin Dzeko for this season. Will he stay for another season at 40? Let's see how it goes. Now, another key point to this save is I do want to start slowly bringing in Moneyball now that FM26 is getting somewhere close to where it should be. Now, we're not going to have the beautiful pie charts yet. I am trying to find a way to incorporate some of my own, but we can use data, especially using the squad views, and we're going to use that at the end of the season to analyse and to recruit. At the minute, I've just got my squad on the Stinger Squad Essentials view, just so I can have a good look at what I've got. Now, when the games start clocking up, we will drop this down and get in the attack data and the defence data to see who's doing their job and who isn't. Now, it's a bit of a shambles where they are in real life, because there is 3 competitions to shoot for this season: Serie A, Coppa Italia and the Conference League, so they did decent last year. And as far as Serie A goes, the pre-season predictions have them in 8th position. That's the sort of place I'll be shooting for in Season 1. And as you can see, not a player in the Dream 11 as of yet. It's also really important to be flexible on the mentality. I do want to attack teams. There's a lot of teams that we can go for, but I am absolutely not scared to drop it back too cautious, and I do want to explore defensive. But I won't lie, this is the one that's causing me a bit of a headache at the minute. Out of possession. I'm not sure if it makes sense yet, and I'm going to have to use this season to try and experiment. As we go to the recruitment screen, I don't like to make too many changes season 1. I like to give players a chance, but this is what I'm going to be looking for. We definitely need a right back to cover for Dodo, a backup goalkeeper for David De Gea to eventually overtake him, and an extra option in attacking midfield. And we might have to get a bit inventive with this because we've got 14 million in the transfer budget but nothing in the wage budget available. So as targets come up, I might have to do a bit of adjusting. Now, don't get me wrong, if I go into the season like this, I'll just get the both of the tactics up there, I'm quite happy. The starting 11's really good. I'm excited to see what we can get out of Dzeko at 39. He's one of my favourite strikers ever. But honestly, this out of possession stuff, what would you do? How would you set up an out of possession when you're attacking narrow? Would you stay narrow and force them inside, or would you try and cover those wings? So we're marching into pre-season, and the first thing I wanted to do was sort Moise Kean out. Now, he's going to play quite a lot up front in rotation with Dzeko, but his other position, I need him to get more familiar with being a second striker. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to training and retrain him to be an attacking midfielder stroke second striker. So pre-season went pretty well. There were some good victories, some good performances against some pretty competitive teams, including a pre-season friendly against division rivals Lazio, where we came out on top 3-1. And there's no time to wait because we go straight into the Europa Conference League playoff system against Helsinki, followed a couple of days later by a tough-looking game against Napoli. Brutal start. And in that Conference League game, I was really impressed with the way we looked. Gersons, the good news is, looks as good as ever. So we're shooting for this narrow system and we need the width to come from the wing backs, and it is from Dodo on the right and Gersons on the left. That looks good. Now at the minute, Gersons has started like an absolute train and he pulls off a lovely ball here to his wing back partner Dodo. In the box we've got 3. I'd like probably one more, so that's something I might look at. One of these 2 attacking midfielders, maybe change their role a little bit to get them involved as well. Not too bad at the minute. Dodo's getting to the byline, which is good. Comes back to him and he supplies the assist. And a classic Dzeko goal. We got a 3-0 win in this one. It was the next game that was a worry though. It was Napoli away from home. I mean, look at the key players, De Bruyne, Scott Mack. The question I was wrestling with was, do I stick with attacking mentality because it went so well in the previous match? Before that, I did seal the deal for a new backup goalkeeper. Stefano Torrati comes in from Sassuolo. So the fee's going to rise to 3 million, but he's only 23 and I think he's got good potential, who could perhaps take over from De Gea one day. With the transfer window closing in, I put a loan move in for Julian Araujo, who's at Bournemouth, to cover that right back slot. And with deadline day arriving, I was still active. And at the last minute, sealed the deal for Tommaso Baldanzi on loan from Roma with an option of 18 million future fee. Quality attacking midfielder, exactly what we need. And there was still time to turn down Brighton's 25 million offer for Dodo. Annoyingly though, I did miss out on Araujo, who joins Brighton, and I've got no time to get a right back in. So just the 2 additions to the squad for season 1, but really happy with them. And then it was the Napoli match. So I was being bold and brave against one of the title favourites, and I'm telling you, this iodine tactic has movement everywhere, and Moise Kean in that attacking midfield slot started to look good. But Gersons looked really good. Maybe because it's early season and Napoli haven't settled yet, but we ripped them apart in the first half. But they are a good team, and just before half time they did strike back. Now of course we lived dangerously in this one, but we were building up from the back really nicely. There's Dodo, Gersons setting off down the left hand side, the lunatic. He's loving his start to the season. Then Moise Kean through to Edin Dzeko, 3-1 by half time. In the second half, Dzeko added a 4th. I mean, a 4-1 win at Napoli, I am in dreamland with that. Dzeko scored again in the Conference League qualifier. Things are looking pretty good. Right, a dream start, but I'm not going to get carried away because I'm guessing Napoli probably underestimated us. So we need to make sure we beat the lesser teams. And that's exactly what we didn't do. Because unbelievably, we played AC Milan and got a 90th minute winner, but drew at home to Pisa, drew away at Lecce, and drew at home at Parma and got beat by Torino. Because remember, we are cycling between 2 different tactics, but it's the out of possession stuff that's the big change. This one where they drop back a bit more, and this one where they push up a little bit higher. Thankfully, we got it back together, beat some bigger teams like Atalanta. And despite the odd annoying result, the first half of the season was pretty good, especially the league phase of the Conference League where we went undefeated, winning 4 out of 6. As for Serie A, well, we're sitting in 10th position, but we do have 2 games in hand on nearly everybody else. And by the way, Bologna are top of the table. So far, of the attacking players, Albert Gudmundsson has stood out So he's got a good average rating. He's the top scorer. His goals per 90 is 0.5. His expected assists could be a little bit higher at 0.2, but they do match his actual assists per 90. But he is getting 2.4 key passes per match away, which is the best in the squad. As far as the defend data goes, interestingly, possession 1 per 90 minutes, Gersons and Dodo and the backup left wing back all feature prominently, which is quite handy. Makes me think, do I actually need these two guys ahead of them? Food for thought. But on the flip side, possession lost per 90, they're all top of that as well. But you've got to weigh that up and whether it's worth it or not. And Dodo, for example, has 10 assists, so he's one of the main creative outlets, so he's going to lose the ball quite a lot as well. I think it's fair to say that this squad have done enough to have a chance for the second half of the season, so no transfers yet. I want to point out this guy though. This is Abdelhamid Sabiri. He's only valued at 750. He's got decent attributes, but he's bagged 6 goals in 7 matches, right? And if you go to the squad view, goals per 90 is 0.7. So he's top. So you can find some rough diamonds in your squad if you give him a chance. But as always at this point of the game, the 31st of December, I do like to see who's going to be out of contract next season because we don't have a lot of money to work with. So this is where quick filters come in quite handy. Press that, contract expiring, and now we've got all the players whose contracts are coming up within 6 months. I've got them lined up in recommendation order at the minute, but you can order them in transfer value if you like, or ability and potential. Then we just need to marry them up and not get carried away because there's some big name players here. Kesse, Fabinho, Basuma. But do I actually need them? I've decided to look for a couple of players. A new defensive midfielder, and I'm going to need a striker at some point with Dzeko nearly 50. So I've got 2 bids in for players that'll fit the bill. Jonas Wind, striker from Wolfsburg, 6'3", big powerful player, and he's got the added bonus of being able to drop back a bit if I need him to. And I put a move in for Emre Can to try and get him over to Serie A as well. So we went into the second half of the season at a snowy Milan. You're about to witness a beast of a counter-attacking goal. Moise Kean playing up front in this one, giving Dzeko a rest, smashed in the winner. And we thoroughly deserved that one as well. And something was definitely cooking here because then Juventus came to Florence and they couldn't touch this beautiful passing move. That topped off a near perfect January where we won 5 out of 6 and only conceded twice. It's meant after a half a season of tweaking, I am now sold on this being the final version of the tactic. I've even renamed it the Sting Iodine 26. That great January run has shot us up to 4th position and we've still got a game in hand. What is going on? Annoyingly though, it's about to get completely derailed because Dodo's going to Man City. 49 million was deemed too good to turn down. Add to that the fact that both of those transfer targets I went for the summer both turned me down. This is not ideal. So this is every player that's on the transfer list. I'm looking for a quick deal. Matheus Nunes could be an option, but I can't afford his wages. Let's see if we can get him on loan. This is really annoying because Dodo has been one of the best players in Serie A. His open play expected assists and his dribbles mean he's been the perfect wing back. But they've triggered his release clause, so there's nothing I can do. So right this moment you've joined me on a very stressful deadline day because Dodo has just gone to City for 49 million. So I need to get a replacement in with about 10 hours to go. I'm still waiting for a decision on Nunes, so I'm going to have to look elsewhere just in case he bombs me off. I probably should have done this sooner, but I've jumped into the transfer room to see if anyone can offer me a fullback stat. By 6:30 there's still no responses. I've definitely left that way too late. Now this might sound a bit dramatic, but whether or not we get Nunes could decide how successful this season's going to be. Absolute disaster. So Dodo's gone to City, and I've got a gaping gap at right back. With the only players able to play there is an injured Tariq Lamptey and centre-back Pongracic. I mean, he's a decent player, but you wouldn't class him as an attacking wing-back, would you? But he might have to be. Now the other option I do have is in the under-20s team. Nicolo Fortini is a natural at left wing-back, but he can do a job down the right, so he's coming into the first team squad. I swear to God, if this issue wrecks our season, I will be raging. So I won't lie, I'm worried going into the rest of the season. But arise, Sir Pongracic, my new massive right wing back. Look at him bombing down the right hand side like prime Cafu. He is my new right wing back. Watch this. And in the 5 games he's played as a wing back so far, he's only gone and got 3 assists, including this one against Inter Milan. In fact, our new elite right wing back and the rest of his teammates had a blooming great time. We even made the semi-finals of the Coppa Italia. Losing 2-0 at Inter Milan in the first leg, it was back at our gaff to try and turn things round. But a bit of sloppy play meant that Inter got the 3rd goal over the 2 legs, and despite a brave effort, we'd come up just short. But our form in Serie A had meant we'd climbed to a shocking 3rd place, just 6 points off the top. I think it's fair to say that Iodine in FM26 is alive and well. So by the time we beat third place Bologna 2-1, we'd managed to climb up to second in the table, just behind Roma, ahead of giants Inter, Juve, Milan, Napoli. It's been a dream season for the boys. We've only lost the 6 matches, which is the second best in the league. And unbelievably, Roma lose their last game of the season away at Udinese, but in a match that turned out to be a bit of a nothing match. It ended 0-0 against Lazio. But my God, if you'd offered me that at the start of the season, I would have snapped your hand off. I am baffled how we managed to finish second, but here we are. But my friends, that is not the end of the story. Because that Conference League campaign, which started with us being undefeated in the league phase, saw us continue that form in the knockouts. The semi-final of the Conference League. We came up against German team Mainz. Somehow they managed to scratch a draw out of the first leg, but we got that draw and it was a returning Tariq Lamptey, his first game of the season I think this was, who supplied the assist late on. And in the second leg it should have been way comfier, but we made the Europa Conference League final in season 1, which meant the final coming up against Crystal Palace. Finally, on 53 minutes, we take the lead through that man, Gudmundsson. And in a match we dominated, we did it. Fiorentina claim that beautiful UEFA Conference League. Seems only fitting that our new right wing back was the man to lift the trophy as well. Now we've had a worldie of a season there. I'm a little bit embarrassed how well we did with that new tactic, but it does mean in season 2 I can kind of just go for it now because I've accomplished the goals in season 1. So now we'll burst into season 2 and see how far we can push it with this Iodine tactic with some key signings. This is pretty tough because I'm looking at where we can improve. We scored 64 times, conceded 37, so we conceded less than a goal a match and scored the 3rd or 4th best total in the league. It's a weird situation where I don't technically need to replace anyone, but if we want to get to that next level, it's going to be a case of attribute-wise, who's slightly better than what we've got. And are there any players available that completely blow away my team in terms of metrics? Look, I don't want to change too much, so I'm going to just target a couple of positions because we're doing well. So the first position is right back. You can see I've got Lamptey in there at the minute. Now obviously we lost Dodo last season and he's still the best rated average rating in the entire league. You can see the loss that he was. But if I get back to my squad view and knock it to attacking data, because that's kind of what the wing backs are. If I look at Tariq Lamptey, out injured for most of the season, managed 7 appearances, mostly off the bench. His average rating was good, but the interesting one is down here. So his expected assists are 0.3 and his chance creation per 90 is 0.4. These are good numbers, but the standout number is here, 14.5 crosses attempted per 90. If I click on that, it's the highest in the entire squad. So I'm going to give him the shirt and he's going to be backed up by our new living legend, Pongracic. Now on the other side, Gerson has got some competition this season and it comes in-house. Parisi looks like he's going to be an outstanding wing-back. He played off the bench nearly the entire season, but as I filter this down to just defenders and the left side, you're going to see what I'm saying here. Again, attack data because he's a wing-back. If we look at expected assists per 90, Parisi is on top. Loads of game time, by the way. 38 appearances, 37 off the bench, but he did a lot of appearances. Chance creation, he's top of that as well. Crosses attempted, 2nd place. So he very definitely can compete for that jersey. Now, a position where I am making a move is in defensive midfield. Simon Sohn played nearly every match last season, nearly every match. Now, if I go to defend data, because that's what I'm looking at from my defensive midfielder, and I'm just going to select my defensive midfielder as central. There's Simon Sohn. So what I'm looking for from him is progressive passes and winning the ball back. And progressive passes, he fails miserably, having only 4 per match. Now, in a DM role, we need that to be a lot higher. Combine that with his possession 1 of just 6.9, I'm going to let him go even though he's a high valued player. I've got a couple of players lined up as his replacement. The first is Salvatore Esposito. To me, he looks like the perfect defensive midfielder in terms of attributes, and he's also got the handy side effect of being an absolute beast at set pieces. But you'll notice his progressive passes are a lot better than some, but most importantly, possession 1 per 90 minutes is an outrageous 13.4. I've also locked down a deal for experienced Emre Can. He's on the way in, free transfer from Dortmund. Again, possession 1 at 14 per match. And the next one coming in is Ismail Decore. Now he's probably more a centre back, but he can easily play in defensive midfield as well. Loads of appearances in Ligue 1.
and again, possession 1 out of this world. The only other position I want as a starter is attacking midfield. Now, Baldanzi has the shirt at the minute. My boy Albert from Iceland is the barometer though, because he has been outrageous this season. He's bagged 23 goals, 14 assists. He's been fantastic. Switching to the attack data that you can see is on top there. Non-penalty expected goals 0.4. So I need people to kind of match his performance in terms of that and expected assists. At the minute, Baldanzi is just below that, but the one that worries me the most is key passes per 90. He's way off. So I'm just wondering, is the 15 million signing, which we have the option on, the right direction to go? Because in honesty, we have some good options in-house that have been out on loan, such as Lucas Beltran. He's on loan at Valencia. He's scored 10 goals in 33 matches out there. And youngster Shirt Nader is definitely ready to jump up as well. And the final signing we're looking for in this mini summer rebuild will be as a support striker to Moise Kean. We've turned him into one of the top strikers in Serie A with 24 goals this season. He's on a goal per game of 0.5, outdoing his non-penalty XG at 0.4. And it's dead simple when it comes to strikers. I'm just looking for goals per game. I just want them to score the goals. And I think I found his backup in Mustafa Mohamed. Remember, he's not going to start every match. He hasn't been doing that job at Nantes. He's scored 7 times in 13 league matches, 12 off the bench. He's got a good goal scoring record of 0.45 per 90 minutes. He'll be a more than capable backup. By the time the season got going, there was quite a lot of outs. 17 players left us through a variety of transfers, contracts endings and loans. And we did bring in those 4 players at a total cost of under 30 million. So we're still working off that Dodo money. Now, I made the decision purely off data not to sign Baldanzi. I know he's good. I'll probably kick her myself. But I'm going to trust the data on this one. So the team for this season looks a bit like this. Now, Piccoli's got the shirt at the minute. I didn't really play him last season. In honesty, it was one of those classic FM things where I kind of forgot about him. He was shipped into the reserve team when I got there. Didn't see him, then I was like, holy hell, he's actually a really good player. And he can play as a second striker. Or the backup to Moise Kean. Which means I probably didn't need to sign Mustafa Mohamed, but with Champions League games as extra fixtures this year, it's not a bad thing. Esposito's got the shirt in DM at the minute, but he's going to rotate with the experienced Emre Can. Fagioli had a great season last season. His value skyrocketed to over 50 million, as did Mandragoras. He's now over 50 million. As for this season, it does get further complicated by that Champions League. We're straight into the league phase, which is a bonus. And as for Serie A, we're pretty much where we were last season in terms of season preview, a little bit higher up at 6th position. We started the season with a good away draw at Lazio. Probably should have won, but we only had 34% of the ball. And we looked good in our first home match, coming up against Torino and scoring a 3-0 win. But you can see the added complications of the Champions League with the fixture schedule already loading up. Zagreb and Bayern Munich coming up. Goals for the season are pretty simple for my reshaped squad. Maintain a top 4 place because the second season in FM is notoriously more difficult than the first. So into the season we went, signs were good. Lamptey started to make that right back spot his own. But the added pressure of the Champions League put a lot of pressure on the squad. By the midpoint of the season, there's a lot of losses in there, but a lot of those are in the Champions League. Because in Serie A it's going well, we're sitting in 3rd position. Now as for the Champions League, we've had some tough fixtures, Barcelona, Bayern, Dortmund. So in the minute we're down in 25th, but we've still got a chance. Lamptey's given me 7 assists from right back. Keane has bagged 16 goals already. And Beltran back from Valencia, 8 goals, 8 assists. It's always tricky when a team that isn't supposed to be in the Champions League is suddenly in the Champions League, and we are. Now the squad's good. Is it good enough to maintain a battle on 2 fronts? Well, the second half of the season was way better than the first half of the season, much more consistent. We had a good little run in the Champions League and ended up qualifying in 17th, winning 4 out of 8. But that's where we ran into Newcastle and they battered us 4-0 at home. In the second leg though, we were superb, put up a brilliant fight. If only we did this in the first leg. We beat Newcastle 2-0 with 2 goals from Beltran, but unfortunately went out 4-2 overall. As far as the league campaign, it was super solid with some big wins. Just those defeats early in the season had stopped us really pushing on for a potential title run. We had managed to make the Coppa Italia final, beating Bologna 3-0, where we will meet Roma in the final. We've had some big players in these 2 years with Fiorentina, no more so than Moise Kean, all the potential in the world in real life, but for me, my God, 35 goals this season in 49 matches. And Lamptey's value has skyrocketed to 33 million after 13 assists this season, as has Parisi, who's had a good battle with Robin Gersons for that left back spot this season. Team chemistry overall has been really good. I still think this tactic can be improved somewhere. Probably out of possession, because in possession we seem to be doing really well. But anyway, it's time for that cup final. We go into the match without Tariq Lamptey, which is a massive blow, so the legend will have to do his thing again at right wing back. But here we go, the final, the Coppa Italia. So we have just beaten Roma 3-0, but they're definitely starting the better.
And they've got that worrying Baldanzi playing for us, so I really don't want former player syndrome hitting me. Like that. I thought I'd equalise, but Moise Keane's goal was disallowed. And despite pushing and pushing for an equaliser in the second half, there's no fairy tale this time as Roma take down the Coppa Italia. Disappointing because we should have won that match, look at that. But back in the league we had the job to do, we had to maintain this top 4 spot. It's pretty tight with us, Bologna and Juve. And we sealed that 4th place with 2 draws, 1 against Milan, slightly disappointing against Palermo. But that was the goal to start the season, a top 4 finish, just a bit of a shame to miss out on that Coppa Italia. So overall, the iodine tactic served us well in Serie A. It's reinvigorated Fiorentina, a little bit of data here and there, just a little sample of Moneyball of what's to come. Got to be happy with that though. But a nice little revival of a big giant. If you want to see another revival, check out this video I did with Ajax. It's time for the first hoofball of Football Manager 26. In this save, we do the dark arts. We go longer football. Quite often, we waste some time, we savage the opposition, we sit in a mid-block, we start in a cautious or even defensive mentality, and of course, we concentrate on recruiting absolute giants. And to do this, you've got to take over an unfancied team. Let the long ball football commence. So I'm looking forward to this one. The chosen club is in Ligue 1 in France and it is Metz. Now there's 2 main reasons I decided on Metz. The first is they are 400 to 1 predicted to get relegated easily. The second, when I checked out the squad, there was one player I thought, yes, Papa Moussa Fall is 6'8", my dream striker for this type of football. But then I came crashing down to earth when I realised they'd sent him out on loan for a season. And I can't blooming recall him. Clearly got a bit excited when I saw the squad screen and didn't realise that he was out on loan, but he will be back next season. It's obviously a team that just got promoted last season, so it's not going to be great. Now I've got my Stinger Squad Essentials view in, which does exactly what it says on the tin. It just gives me the essential views that I use, but you damn right I'm going to add a new column. So to do that, we'll go up here, we'll press right click, we'll insert a column in here, we'll go down to general and we'll slot in height. This is going to tell me the height of my squad. As you can see, I do have some big boys. 6'8" goalkeeper Papasai, 6'6" goalkeeper Jonathan Fisher. Yeah, we're okay. Including 6'5" centre-back Terry Yegbe, who looks like an absolute unit. Jumping reach of 16, strength of 17. He's even got really good balance. He's low-key a proper good player. And hello, long throws of 17. I think we can use that. Now, if I slot this into height order, we can see what we're dealing with. So it looks like we've got well over half the squad over 6 foot. That's kind of the barometer. And the smaller players down here can still take part to some degree. I'm not going to expel them just because they're short. We might need a couple of pacey wingers. Now, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to give them a chance. I like to use Season 1 to give players a chance, see where we're at. But I am looking to up the overall height of the squad eventually. So when it comes to the way we're going to play, we need to start with the team instructions. Now, obviously, it's going to be more direct or even much more direct. One of those two, we can't go any lower than that. We need to keep the tempo high because if you drop it down to lower or standard and you're playing direct football, you're asking for trouble and it's not going to work. These two work together quite well. Down here, we're definitely going for floated crosses, so we need to make sure we've got a striker who can take advantage of that. Now, out of possession, I'm going to have a mid-block. I'm going to set them at a higher line, but I'm going to drop it as the games go on, especially against the bigger boys. I'm already scared about the PSG match, for example. We will use get stuck in because that kind of marries with the philosophy, but obviously drop that down if we're getting too many bookings. In possession, I'm going pretty basic. At the minute, I've got it as a 4-4-1-1. Target forward will win the headers. Shadow striker will feed off him. 2 wingers to get the crosses in. Looks pretty solid stuff. Now, the interesting one is going to be the out of possession plan that I've got. Now, because it's so much more flexible this season in Football Manager 26, we can get very funky on out of possession. Now, I was watching some matches over the weekend and I noticed a lot of teams, even the big teams, completely drop right back, like right back. Indeed, a match that stands out massively was Arsenal v City, where City basically defended in a back 10. Both these examples show just how deep they dropped back, and I thought if it's good enough for Pep, it's good enough for me. We're having some of that. So this is what we're going to do out of possession. I'm going to drop everybody back into the mid block and try and break on the counter with balls over the top. So when we get both tactics up, you can see that the 2 DMs stay exactly where they are. But then the shadow striker needs to work his socks off to get back to screen, as does the target forward. It's likely they're not going to be able to get right back all the time, but if they get somewhere around this sort of area, it should be good
for counter-attacks.
That's the theory anyway. It's going to be fun to see if it works. So as far as player roles go, you can see I'm going to have 2 no-nonsense centre-backs. We mentioned Yegby earlier. He's going to be a standout. He's only 24, so he could stay with us through this journey. Now at full-back, I'm going to go down the old-school route that Stoke did, and to be fair, some top-level teams have done as well. I'm putting a centre-back at left-back. Mikel Mobula, 6'1", more of a centre-back. He's going to play at left-back. In defensive midfield, there's 2 good players. Boubacar Traore is on loan from Wolves. And Jesse Demenge is a decent-looking playmaker. He might be the one to do those key passes over the top. Now, at the minute, in the key position of target forward, I've given the shirt to Habib Diallo. He's probably the best of my options at the minute. He's 6'1". He's not a bad striker. He's got good finishing, so he might be able to capitalise on some of those long balls over the top. Less so on those floated crosses. But remember, we will have Pape Moussa fall back at some point. And you do see that warning sign under Diallo. That's because they're saying he won't be able to get back into that defensive midfield position. Like I said, it is a stretch for him to get back, but I just want him to make the movement to attempt to get there, rather than staying higher up. Now, mentality-wise, we will drop it down to cautious. If we take the lead in some matches and to see it out, we're going to get that down to defensive as well. Now, recruitment-wise, I'm not going to make any transfers yet. My budget is 1.9 million, which I'm actually quite happy with. I thought it might have been less, but the wage budget is 0. So to adjust that, you'd have to go to adjust transfer and wage budget. And if there's any players that are available on free transfers or such things, we can maybe drop that down. But for now, it's just going to be a case of sending some scouts out, get some shortlists built, ready for next season. And that's what I've done under recruitment focuses. I went to create a new recruitment focus. Any position from the tactic, I'm not being picky. The only thing I was picky about as I went to next was further details. As you can see, height is at least 6'4". Back to main details, and we're going to have that ongoing, so we'll constantly look for these players. A couple of scouts and recruitment analysts are set. Dropped the minimum current ability down to 1.5, just so we can get a better broad range of players, and instantly they gave me 5 options. Now these guys are all at least 6'4", and he's even taller when you take into account his massive hair. And after a couple of weeks, I was able to start building my shortlist. I've got 5 players on there that interested me. For example, Theo, I think he is Zinedine Zidane's son, and I did not know that he is 6'5". A 6'5" attacking midfielder, shadow striker, that appeals to me greatly. He might be a bit of a big ask though, because he's valued at 3.5 million, but that is one to think about for the future. And I've got a clutch of other players on there, all fitting the bill. There's a 6'5" striker there from Serbia, currently playing in Portugal. We've got a Japanese right back who's at 6'2". So that's the type of philosophy we're using for this save. Pre-season was all about trying to get the tactic to work. As you can see here, we created a lot of chances with only 36% possession, so that's probably the way it's going to be. And our first game of the season in Ligue 1 was a tricky looking game against fancied Strasbourg. That's Chelsea's feeder club. In this one, after some good wing play, we took an early lead, and then our cause was really helped by this reckless challenge from the Strasbourg midfielder. Off he went. Soon we scored our first headed goal of the season, the rebound by Diallo, and when we didn't have the ball, we were dropping into that shape quite nicely, including Diallo trying to get himself back into central midfield, bless him, and on this occasion it kind of helps because he's the one who intercepts the pass. Now our rough and ready approach will cause us some problems now and again, like here. I mean, I think that's a red card, boss. With both teams down to 10 men, we continue to focus on set pieces. That's going to be a big thing for us this season. And despite being down to 10 men, we were still getting all our bodies back. And the good thing about this approach is when we win the ball back, Diallo wants to get straight back to his striker position. There he goes. And we wrapped up a beautiful opening day victory from the penalty spot through Diallo. And the best thing about that performance, the amount of shots we took with 29% of the ball. Then it was a tough looking fixture, Lyon away. Now this was a game where we were heavily under pressure. You can see how many players we've got behind the ball. Basically, absolutely all of them. However, when we do win the ball back, Diarra gets himself higher up the pitch and then he's set for a long ball over the top. Then early in the second half, a set play helped us go 2-0 up. You can only describe this one as a point blank header. And after a late onslaught from Lyon, the boys held on for a massive victory with only 28% of the ball. I already love this team. I love them. The relegation favourites then made it 3 wins in a row away at Paris FC with only 34% of the ball. Stop the count, stop the season, we're sitting in 3rd place. And you bet your life we are rock bottom of average possession with 30% after our 3 matches. And who needs possession when you've scored 6 goals in 3 matches and only conceded 1? The only question now was, could we maintain this till the midpoint of the season? Well, to help us out, I actually spent a little bit of money. I actually broke my tradition and bought a player in Season 1, and it's Fraser Hornby an attacking midfielder or striker standing at 6'5". I've signed him from Darmstadt, a lower league team in Germany. I say lower league, second level, and he did okay the season before last, scoring 12 times. Bit of a journeyman, been all over the place, but I have got my wish of having a 6'5" second striker. So I slotted him straight into the team, right in that second striker spot. And in his first game for the club, he makes an immediate impact, linking up with strike partner Diallo. He only went and bagged a 94th minute winner, and what a winner. And after another superb defensive performance away at Monaco, a game where we probably should have won that, the plucky underdogs found ourselves on top of the league after 6 matches, just ahead of PSG. So of course we are doing way better than we should be doing at the minute, and I guess at this point it's a good place to point out goals for the save. Simply get this team into Europe. Initially it was to not get relegated, but now let's get them into Europe. The tricky matches kept on coming. Marseille was up next at home, really tight match. I was happy with a draw, but then in injury time Marseille went through, but thankfully that goal was disallowed. However, that match did stop our flow, and despite this great header from Diallo against Lille, we did end up losing that match 2-1, and we had our first tricky point of the season, going 5 matches without a win. We're not getting blasted by any teams by any means, but it's a little bit worrying. However, these hoofball boys are made of sterner stuff, and in the next tricky match against Nice, we've got this booming header from Hornby, and in injury time, he did it again, another big booming header. But I've saved the best till last. This is a counter-attack up against Stade Rennes. He picks the ball up in our half, just in front of our penalty box, and look at this run from the big man. A stunning run, a stunning finish, defensive mentality for the win. I'd actually favoured defensive mentality a lot, adding in time wasting when I needed to as well. In this game we had our lowest possession, I think, 22%, as you can see there. And nearly every game looks like this, with match momentum completely against us. We are the dark red there, as you can see, but we're just killers on the counter-attack. Bad news came when my number 1 goalkeeper, Jonathan Fisher, got injured and is out for 2 months. To make matters worse, backup Papasai also got injured, so I was allowed to sign a goalkeeper. So I snapped up Rui Patricio on a free transfer till the end of the season. The 37-year-old veteran should do a decent job. And he did do a decent job in his first game, clocking in a clean sheet. He's still got it. So after that 5 game without a win, I was worried, but look at this. This sums us up. This is our counter-attacking style. The big clearance to one of the pacey wingers. Off he goes. And who's always there to capitalise? One of the striker boys. And that win against Auxerre was our 4th on the spin, only conceding that 1 goal. But up next, well, we can't avoid them forever. It was PSG. Now the good news is, it's at home and I've got Hornby and Diallo, my giants, up front. The bad news is, they've got that 11. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? Do you know what? We gave PSG an almighty shock with Diarra scoring here. Undoubtedly our toughest game yet, but we got a draw. Everything was going great. But then, 4 of my players called up to the African Cup of Nations. Absolute disaster. You just can't have nice things, can you? You just can't have nice things. So with a bit of a shadow team, we crashed out of the French Cup, losing at home to Lille. And that wraps up the first half of an unforgettable season for Metz playing hoofball. So brushing off the Cup of Nations disaster, we are still sitting in 4th place, only 6 points behind mighty PSG. I feel like this is the perfect time to capitalise on this situation and get some players in for next season. And one thing all these players will have in common is, you got it, height 6'6". Colisacco, midfielder currently at Napoli, fits the bill. And thanks to that recruitment focus, I've got a load of players on the shortlist, so I'm going to keep an eye on every one of these lot. But the most important thing, do you remember start of the season? My young giant striker out on loan? Well, there he is, Pape Moussa Fall. He's currently out on loan at Belgium, doing really well. 8 goals in 18 matches, but it's the halfway point of the season. Can I recall him? Yes, I blooming can. So with him returning to the club tomorrow, I just need to battle through January now with my depleted squad until them players get back. Obviously I threw him straight into the team for the next match, and check this out. The big man gets on the end of that big long through ball and smashes it in. Annoyingly they equalise, but it's still a decent away draw. Do you know, it would be really cruel if the Cup of Nations destroys our momentum because we've had such a good season. I make it. We've got Strasbourg, Lyon, and possibly Angers, and then the players should be back for the run-in. Because we've accomplished goal number 1, don't get relegated, and if you look a bit closer, we've only conceded 11 goals all season, the best in the league. So the big man fall was being useful. Not only was he scoring, but he was laying on goals as well, which is really handy, especially when we had PSG away. We were time wasting from the 20th minute in this one, dropping tempo, trying everything to stay in it, and at half time we're just about clinging on. Despite the match momentum, we were holding a good shape. PSG was struggling to break us down. In the end though, we couldn't hold out and PSG did take it down 2-0. And annoyingly, that did start a bit of a bad run where we didn't win in 4 matches. And we were getting battered at Marseille, but then this goal here, an absolute howitzer from the edge of the box, was absolutely vital because Marseille battered us. But we hung on for a 1-1 draw. And that result stopped the rot. It ended the bad run of results because Yegbe, in the next match, with the long throw to our man Pape Fall, big flick on, and a beautiful hoofball goal.
Absolutely battered them with long throws going into the box.
So despite a bit of a drop off in the second half of the season, the hard work in the early part of the season paid off as Mets finish in 5th position, a whopping 12 places above where they were expected to finish. We maintained our joyous position at the bottom of the average possession charts with just 34% all season, but we were hitting the remit with goals from set pieces, second only in corners to PSG, and indirect free kicks, second again. And you can see how direct we are because our pass completion ratio, rock bottom. Passes completed, you guessed it, rock bottom. But importantly, in defending aspects, we're way up there. Conceded from corners, we're joint 5th. Clean sheets, 3rd position. Tackles won, top. Interceptions in 3rd place. Clearances in 4th place. Shots on target against, 3rd best. Overall, the Mets hoofball tactic was pretty damn successful for what we set out to achieve. It might just be that we shocked teams in the first half of the season, and then late on in the season, we might have got a little bit worked out, so we probably just need a plan B. But the big takeaway from that season, defensive football is possible, and I love that defensive out of possession setup. Definitely going to use it more. Let's go. Now that wasn't a glitch. Because I appreciate you watching these videos so much and I enjoy making them, there is now a prize on offer. You may have seen a lot of creators sharing their gift boxes from Football Manager recently. I didn't do that for this reason, because this kit, this brand new Football Manager kit, limited edition, I don't think there's many made, maybe 100 or so. This is now up for grabs to somebody who comments on this video. All you've got to do is to have a chance of winning this limited edition Football Manager beautiful purple lilac shirt. Timestamp your comment and tell me how much you love hoofball. Simple. Everyone who does that will go into a draw, and the reason I've done it at this point in the video is because if you're watching 16 plus minutes in, you're a sicko and I love you. Let's go. Right, back to season 2, because in this season, with my goal already completed ahead of schedule, getting them into Europe, all that's left is just to create an absolute squad of monsters. So it's going to be incredibly tough to beat the performance from last season, so let's just see what we can do from a physicality standpoint. Now you'll notice I've left some gaps in the team, 2 wingers, 1 DM, definitely needed, but there'll be more players than that. If I go to my first team squad, the players I'm happy with I've gave a shirt to, so all these players down here up until 3 on the bench, and then I've got all these players that I'm willing to discard. Well over half the squad. So as mentioned, I am looking to get a monster squad in terms of height. Apart from 2 positions, the wingers, I just want electric, pacey wingers that can cross the ball because they're going to be the main assist makers for this team. The rest, yeah, they've got to be massive. So I've already made some moves on out of contract players, all of which hit the remit of being absolute tanks. Kalidou Sidibe's playing in League Dirt, good average rating at 6.97, jumping reach is 19, and that's because he's 6'8", so another option in central midfield. And the brilliantly named Noah Bonga will probably never play, but I want him on the bench because he's a striker and he is again 6'8". Now the good news was, because of last season's success, the board stretched to give me 14 million in transfer budget. Now interestingly, one of the first signings came from one of our affiliated clubs, and there's 14 of them. Here's all my affiliated clubs with Mets, and our African affiliated club, Generation Foot. Well, they threw up a great little player that I took immediately. Here's Amari Diouf. Now, at 5'9", you might think, wait a minute, he does not fit into hoofball. But look at his determination at 20. He stands out a mile. And only 18? Are you telling me you wouldn't have signed him? Plus, he can play any of the 2 wing positions. So I'm going to retrain him to play a bit further back.
and he's going to be involved from the bench. A nice little bonus, so yeah, make sure you check out your affiliated clubs. I'm deep into pre-season now, and it's been a very busy time in terms of ins and in terms of outs. A quick look down the squad height table will show you we've completely reshaped things with now 90% of the squad over 6 foot. This includes new right back Pascal Stenzel from Germany, new left-sided player Franco Carboni joins us from Inter, 2 million at any point in the loan, and my bench is absolutely stacked with new players. One of which is a homegrown player, Brian Maggio, valued between 30 and 47 million, a 6'3", 17-year-old striker. This could be a player for you to watch as well, because I sent him out on loan last season to Ligue 2 and he scored 12 times in 33 matches when he was only 16. So he's got promise and he will get a run out in Plan B. I'll show you Plan B shortly. I did mention I wanted to get some really pacey wingers in, and I've managed to do that. From South Africa, Relibahil Mofokeng. 400,000 he cost me, and he's immediately been valued at 21 million. With lightning acceleration of 17, he could be the assist machine I'm looking for. It's a similar story for Japanese player Matsuki Kato, an absolute workhorse. I've got 3 more coming in. Denis Talahovsky is a midfielder from Benfica. I've jumped to the free Liga in Germany for Rasim Bulic, 6'5", central midfielder who just oozes absolute hoofball, aggression, bravery, determination, work rate. Wow. And the final one is going to be my favourite signing yet. This is Hyo Yul from Ulsan. Why is he my favourite signing? Because he oozes everything about this club. Because he can play at centre back, or you can chuck him up front. At 6'4", he might not play much, but yeah, I still love that. So when them players come in, we're about ready for the new season, and it's a more complicated season because we did qualify for the Europa League, which is probably why we had the money to spend. As far as the league goes, a little bit more respect from the pre-season odds. I mean, not a lot, we're still 250 to 1. Time to prove them wrong yet again. And we're going to attempt to do that with our 2-strong tactic approach. We of course start with the old school Mets hoofball from last season, the super defensive, counter-attacking mentality. But if we need a goal, or we need to mix things up a bit, we're going to go to GTS hoof. A remix of the GTS 26 tactic, and yep, 3 target forwards. When we use that tactic out of possession, I'm asking all those target forwards to work really hard to get back into some sort of shape. So now we've got 2 options, Plan A and Plan B. It's time to see what we can do in the second season. So in pre-season we continued the style, but something just wasn't quite right. We didn't seem to be creating as many chances on the break, and we lost our first league game of the season. What had happened was teams were sitting back against us now, so there was less room to counter-attack. It was pretty clear we were going to have to be a bit braver in Season 2. Thankfully though, the basis was still there. Pick out that target forward, let him win the knockdowns, get players wide, and get those crosses into the box. Slowly but surely, we started to get results. Games like this against Monaco were common, 22% of the ball but outshooting the opposition. And you may have noticed a change in the in-possession tactic. So more on that in-possession setup shortly, but the out-of-possession setup was still the same. Everybody behind the ball, including here against PSG. And despite getting battered for most of the match, we got ourselves the draw at the toughest place you can go. At one point early, we were leading the entire league. We just fell away a little bit when the Europa League started. Speaking of the Europa League, we've done really well. We've only lost 1 match and we're sitting top 5 just behind Napoli and Liverpool. So what about that tactic change? Well, we still do use our Mets hoof tactic, but when it looks like it's not going to work, instead of the triple target man, which really did not work, we flipped it up and we've remixed the iodine tactic for a hoofball setup. The bases are still there, more direct, but I have dropped the tempo experiment and with standard, and we've switched these 2 up out of possession. I've dropped the defensive line to standard and the line of engagement a little bit higher. It just means when we lose the ball we can put a bit more pressure on, because the out of possession setup is again all men behind the ball, but I'm only having 1 in the CM spot and 3 in the defensive midfield areas. It means when we get to low block status, we are super low. Get through that. At the halfway point of the season, we were top 3 again. Remember, last season we finished 5th, so we are on course to finish higher. It's probably down to the fact that we're not drawing as many matches, we're winning more. We are conceding a few more goals, but we're winning more matches. Having said that, we are still rock bottom of average possession. But with that extra competition, the Europa League complicated matters. There was rotation all over the place. You can see this here under the appearance tab. Loads of people are getting loads of games. After successfully navigating the group stage, the first knockout round was Rangers. We progressed past them in extra time, which meant we progressed, and in the next round we had Valencia from Spain. The first leg we took a 2-1 win, and this one went to my very first penalty shootout in Football Manager 26. Now, after a ton of great penalties, Valencia had missed their first penalty, which left my boy Mabula with the chance to put us into the semi-finals. Our league rivals Lille were going to be our semi-final opposition. The other semi-final
Well, that looks just scary because it's Napoli and Liverpool. I was eyeing up the Coupe de France for a little bit of silverware, but Paris Saint-Germain knocked us out in the semis. And in the league, with a couple of games to go, we're guaranteed at least a third place finish, improving on last season, with an outside chance of second. In the semi-final of the Europa League, it was a tight 1-1 draw at Lille. And in the return fixture, our first signing, Fraser Hornby, was all over the place and smashed in the winner. So it seemed the right thing to do in the league was to kind of sacrifice it and play a completely weakened team to keep everybody fresh for the Europa League final, because we're going to need it. So I sent out a completely unrecognisable team for my last league game of the season. So a win and a draw in our last 2 league games meant we finished third and qualify for the Champions League next season. Needless to say, the board were absolutely buzzing with that. And now we've got 1 match left. We need to do the impossible and try and beat Liverpool in the Europa League final. So for this one, we definitely go in with a cautious mentality, maybe even defensive depending on how the half goes. Let's hope the more direct football can just give Liverpool a bit of a shock. No matter what happens, my 6-foot team have done brilliantly to get here within 2 seasons. It's just a bit of a worry when you're looking at that team. Can we get some silverware for hoofball in season 2? And my big tactical plan was simple. I was going to wear the same kit as Liverpool and try and confuse them. That is some kit clash, Football Manager. That is some kit clash. In the early stages, we sacrificed the ball like we always do, but Liverpool weren't getting on top of us that much. And as the half wore on, we were actually getting the better of it, catching them on the break and getting the shots away. As we got to half time, I don't think Liverpool are used to this sort of football being played against them. Now in the second half, things got a little bit more aggressive from Liverpool. They were driving forward and all of their standout players started to click. Isak and Wirtz caused us big issues and he put them in front. Soon Gravenberch had made it 2-0. We tried our best to get back into it, even lining up some long throws from Yegby. But despite a brave effort, Liverpool just had too much for us and take down the trophy with a 2-0 win. But we did put up a hell of a fight. Oh, so close, so close. It was a hell of an effort though for only 2 seasons in. And as mentioned earlier, you can see by the appearances down here, the amount of players that got game time and starts and rotation that I had to do this season, I mean, that's huge, all because of those 3 different competitions. So here we are, we used this one a load of the season. We did use this in some big games to try and hit teams on the counter, but I think they've worked it out. So for second season, we used this. It is a lot like the Fiorentina version, but it's completely different in terms of out of possession, and it's completely different in terms of team instructions, where we go more for the direct football, drop the tempo down and chuck in some counter-attacking as well. But overall, for a long ball season of a semi-final place, a final place and a top 3 in League 1, which does give us, I do believe, it does give us the Champions League football for next season if I was to carry this on. I mean, that's pretty cool. And the other good thing is, despite us being more attacking, we did maintain throughout the season the lowest possession in the league. It's more than last season, but it's still the lowest. And you can really see our style of play here, because final third passes per game, we are nowhere. We're bottom of the table because all of our passes come from way further back than the final third. By the way, Brian Maggio, the 18-year-old now, just turned 18, 9 goals in 17 matches. Get him signed early because his value has shot up to 53 million. He's like the first little wonder kid that I've found so far in the early days of FM26. But hell of an effort from Metz. Remember, we started at 400 to 1, 250 to 1 this season. Really proud of the boys and the way they adapted to the hoofball style.